The weekend, by the way, coming up on a second alert weather day on Wednesday. 80 degrees today, Brooke. 80 degrees tomorrow, Brooke. 38
80 degrees?
Today and tomorrow, records. 38 on Wednesday.
What? No, you're lying.
Second
Are you
alert
serious?
weather. No, Matt Chambers told me that on first alert weather.
On first, this is why I wait. I wait to hear it from you, Randy, because I don't want to hear it first. I want to hear it second.
Second alert.
So
yeah.
it's very
Thank
surprising to me. It is literally going to be 80. Well, it says 50 on Wednesday on my weather app.
Yeah, so does
then
mine,
again,
but I trust Matt.
Yeah. The meteorologists have some more technology.
Yeah.
I have a third alert report, which is actually an alert from like a third party, because if you look at the Kansas City one, it's actually even worse, because it's gonna calm down by the time it hits us. Kansas City's going from 80 degrees to an inch of snow.
What?
Yep, that's right now. The Kansas City is 80 degrees on Tuesday, an inch of snow on Wednesday.
Wow.
Are we in Colorado?
Yeah, really. It feels, well, not even Colorado. It's crazy. We're just in St. Louis.
Well, I just know in Colorado you can go from really extremely warm one day and then maybe snowy the next.
Yeah, by driving up a mountain, not just like sitting there.
Yeah.
Just sitting there, and then it surprises you.
They had like 4 inches of snow for a Broncos game, and then in the afternoon it's like 60 degrees.
Totally normal.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I don't know if I necessarily like that, Randy. I was adjusting really well to the warm weather.
I am
enjoy
too.
it. Stevie enjoys going on the walks. Now, my allergies definitely are kicking in early this year because of all the crazy weather. I am using the nasal spray. I'm using Claritin. I think I might be using something else, eye drops as well. So I am trying to prepare as much as possible for the allergies this year, but it's still hitting me a little bit.
Way to prep. I like your foresight there, bro.
You have to. Yeah. My allergies are so bad here for whatever reason.
Chris Kerber is going to join us later in the show. And by the way, speaking of Stevie kind of ruined one of our segments today. What'd she do?
Well, so if you guys remember when I first came along here, I brought in an elephant for the Elephant in the Room segment.
Not a real elephant.
Not a real one. Well, that would be kind of hard. Even though we do have a free zoo, I don't think you can freely take the animals from the zoo, which, I mean, come on now. That'd be
That's not the opening drive.
That's not what they meant the whole time?
No, I guess not. Oh, yeah.
This explains the anger.
So I had this little stuffed elephant. Stevie is very mischievous, and she had been plotting for a while because she watched that elephant. She really liked it, and she tore it apart. As soon as she saw me get it from Amazon one day, she was plotting for a long time on the moment she was going to grab it, and she destroyed it. So now we can't do the Elephant in the Room segment.
But we will point out that the elephant in the room is that for your St. Louis Cardinals, leading the club in OPS this spring with an OPS of 3,000 is one Matt Carpenter.
Yes!
Marv, that's the elephant in the room. Ollie, how do you deal with that? Do you play him at third? Do you play him at first?
You play him every day, don't you?
Do you play him at second? Every day. Every stinking day.
Every single day.
Yep.
This is Taylor Motter 2.0, but way better. Man, Randy, why did we even have any questions about this?
I don't know why we question Mo. I just don't know.
We don't know, honestly. This is why they get paid the big bucks.
Mo knows.
He does.
All right, here's what we had happen this weekend. St. Louis City SC got their MLS season off and running against Real Salt Lake on Saturday night over at City Park. Real actually took a lead in the second half after a scoreless first half, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, we might have a scoreless tilt here. But Real Salt Lake scores. City comes back and ties the game, and they wind up in a 1-1 draw on the pitch.
It wasn't the perfect game. And, Rock, you can weigh in on this. We were discussing this earlier. Of course, you did have Sam Adinter, and he was able to come in with the equalizer, but it just really felt like they couldn't get behind their back four. Real Salt Lake, they couldn't get behind their back four. And when Sam entered the match, that's what changed.
Yeah, he's an incredible one-on-one player, and the injury to Parker wasn't good, and then Yarrow has to get checked for a concussion twice in like 3 minutes time, which seemed like I was watching a football game for a moment there, because they put him right back in and didn't even ask any questions. And I was like, oh, I'm really watching a football. I'm really watching a football game right now. But I think also, in addition to Adeniran coming in, forcing themselves to go to a odd man back line, also I really think changed the game. It gave them a lot more width with the wing backs and Totland and Marcanic, and that created a lot more space. And then Adeniran used that space on the wing to create that one-on-one moment. But overall, I mean, that was a pretty poor game for City. Depending on which stat you look at, it was one of the worst passing game in the history of St. Louis City in an MLS contest. They couldn't get their first touchdown, and they couldn't get any passes completed, in a short range. It was a rough game for them.
That's what I noticed too, is that it just seemed like the passes didn't end up always where they were supposed to. Their defense left some gaps open, which of course led to Real Salt Lake scoring, and they were able to take advantage in the 74th minute. But at the same time here, it is the opener for MLS, so that was exciting to see. Of course, the fan support is always so good. But the first 2 weeks, I feel like, are really going to test City SC's depth here. And you're already seeing it tested right now with all the injuries that you mentioned. And then Kyle Hebert was in the game. He's missing 10 days, I believe, due to
About another
injury.
week with a knee.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is really going to test their depth.
And tomorrow they take on Houston in leg 2 of their matchup in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And we'll see, because Tim Parker's status, as we mentioned, is unknown. Hebert out for another week, and Nielsen did play the full 90 on Saturday, so that's a good thing. NHL, the Blues and the Red Wings played scoreless. Blues held them without a goal on Saturday afternoon in the third period. Before the third period, though, it was 4-0 after one. Patrick Kane scoring on a breakaway that you got, or he scored from Gostisbehere and DeBrincat. He scored a winner yesterday in his return to Chicago. Michael Rasmussen scored. Robbie Fabry scored his 14th of the year. DeBrincat scored.
You suckered us into that.
I didn't even question why we were doing
you
it.
just got to do it.
Okay, fine.
He's still our guy.
Is he? No.
He was really good for the economy here.
Was he?
Oh, yeah.
Why was he, Randy?
He was a wheelhouse regular. I mean, he took care of the people over there.
Randy knows all the gossip, huh?
Oh, yeah, the streets are talking.
The streets are talking.
Yeah. Second period, Zach Bolduc, who was the Blues' best player. All due respect to Zach, I love him. Love Zach Bolduc. He has a great future. But when he's your best player in a game in Detroit, you've got a problem. He scored 12:28 into the second. Comfer and DeBrincat with his second of the game. 6-1, the Red Wings over the Blues. And most notable from that game, didn't see much or any of Jordan Kyrou or Robert Thomas or Kasperi Kapanen from about the 8-minute mark of the second period on. Not great for
Season
them.
low ice time for both of them. For Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou, was it a good game for everybody? No, and Drew Bannister pointed that out. But what message does that send when Drew Bannister benches his two, obviously, biggest players on the team?
I think that's a huge problem that the Blues have. They might be second-guessing the contracts that they gave to those two. And if you really want to send a message for somebody who's not playing well, why not bench the captain?
Well, you could, I guess. But I guess he's trying to show with his top line, the guys that he really is looking to the most, that they didn't play well enough. But I do can you bench the entire team? That's my question. Can you bench the entire team? Because it wasn't a good game for anybody, really, other than Bolduc. Congratulations on your first NHL goal.
Yeah.
There we go. We'll celebrate that.
I wonder, though, if Drew Bannister is if he is relegating himself to interim status forever. When you make a move like this, it's either going to boom or it's going to bust. And I think in this day and age, especially when you're dealing with a player like Jordan Kyrou, it has a much better chance to backfire on you than succeed on you.
Well, because we saw an example of that, didn't we? A recent example of how it could backfire for you. But I think it was a very gutsy call by Bannister, because there's one of two ways it can go, but it really depends on how those players respond to it. So you bench that. You're sending a whole message to the team, not just to those players. Now, I'm sure he'll have a conversation with them, and he did afterwards. How do they respond to that conversation? That's really going to determine how things go.
And I would be concerned about it. The Blues are at Winnipeg tomorrow night. Pretty cold day in Winnipeg today, I would think. But the trade deadline is coming up. I don't think it'll be those guys that get moved, but this stretch here before the trade deadline, the Blues in the midst of playing 8 out of 9 on the road. They aren't a really tough, mentally road team, even though they were 500 on the road before that game. They just don't appear to be really mentally tough. And I wonder if that's a trait that Armstrong will start looking for when he makes moves.
Well, they're still in the playoff bubble in a sense, and so they're still in the thick of things. This is a really tough decision that he has to make because you're starting to see, though, something that we saw earlier in the season, which is the inconsistency. You have one of your best games of the season, and you follow it up with a really, really terrible game. I don't know what that says about this group, but maybe it does show that they're just not mentally tough enough.
Yeah.
And then do you just start taking pieces apart here, or what can you move?
That's the question.
Especially if you still want to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and can you find that guy? Can you find a player that will be a leader, that will drag Ken Hitchcock always used to say about Backus, he drags everybody else into the fight. And I think one of the problems we have here, it's not Braden Shen being the leader, it's the people that are willing to follow into the fight. And there just isn't that group of people that are willing to follow in and give their all on a regular basis. I don't know how you change it.
I don't either.
It's a problem.
It is.
Also on the weekend, St. Louis University with a victory over G-Dub, 96-91. Oh, and Brooke, so the baby race was on Saturday.
Yes, that's what I want to hear
And so,
about.
my family and I, we all put $20 in and picked the baby, and I won. My baby actually crossed the finish line. A lot of babies didn't even get out of the starting gate. Congratulations to the winners, but mine finished in third and at least finished.
Please tell me how you picked which baby you believed would win.
I just picked
were you like...
They were all little, I guess.
Okay.
I picked the one wearing white. I don't know why. I just picked one. I thought, that looks like it might be a fast baby. And none of the babies were particularly fast.
So no chunky babies, because then you assume if it's a chunky baby, which there's nothing wrong with chunky babies.
No, baby fat.
Yes, exactly. But you're worried about with the speed. You had a whole tactic to this, didn't you?
Yeah, this was a small little baby. Again, they're all small, but this was smaller than the other ones. The other thing was, if a baby stood up and walked, it got disqualified, and there was one that stood up and walked.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So $60 for Randy. That's really all that matters for me.
I can't believe you bet on
I got to bet on a baby race. I'm a degenerate now. Mizzou so SLU wins 96-91 over G-Dub. By the way, they're called the Revolutionaries now. What a stupid name. Is that the stupidest name in college sports?
Were they the Colonials?
They were the Colonials. I guess that became cancelable?
Oh, I guess. Okay, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I never thought about it from that perspective.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now they are.
You don't like the Revolutionaries?
No.
It sounds like a band.
Bad name. It is like a band. The G-Dub Revolutionaries. That's just a stupid name. If you're going to be George Washington, why not be the George Washington Presidents?
Oh, that's a good one.
Or the Cherry Pies, with all due respect.
Cherry choppers?
Did he have wooden teeth?
Yeah, but you don't want to.
The George Washington.
He actually didn't have wooden teeth, but you don't want to go into the real story of that.
Okay, but George Washington.
Gets worse.
There's nothing wrong with mythical, right?
It's true.
Kraken. We've got Kraken. Why can't we have the George Washington wooden teeth?
The wooden teeth. I think that sounds very intimidating, actually.
Yeah, it does.
That's great marketing on your part, Randy.
Thank you.
Well, just I guess, man, you know what? You know what the problem is? It's George Washington Generals, but you can't do that. You can't do the Washington Generals because then Because then every time you lose a basketball game, everyone's gonna play Benny Hill music.
How about this one? How about the George Washington Liars?
Oh no! Why?
Just coming up with ideas.
You're telling me the cherry tree story is not real?
No, I think it is. I think it's real.
Brock is
I cannot tell a lie.
It's not.
Anyway, George Washington lost to SLU. Arkansas beat Mizzou 88-73. Mizzou headed towards a winless season in the SEC. Not great. Pretty bad.
Not worried.
Yeah, pretty bad. But hopefully they'll be able to hang on to the guys that they signed for next year. And then Illinois, 12th ranked team in the land, a winner over Iowa on Saturday, 95-85. The Cardinals off to a 3-0 start yesterday. They shut out the Astros 3-0. Drew Rahm, by the way, John Mozeliak called him John Rahm, which is good. We call him CD here. John Rahm, two-sport star.
There you go. Wow, I did not know that.
Thomas, Hentz with 4 strikeouts in 2 innings, and Leahy combined on the shutout for yesterday's victory as the Cardinals win it. And let's see, Wynn jumped out. He had 3 hits in his spring debut. And there you have it. And one other note, Eric Bieniemy gets a gig at UCLA as their assistant head coach and offensive coordinator.
I did see that. That is a move.
It's a move.
It's a move. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but then we are seeing I feel like we're seeing more of the reversal, though. So
Yeah.
that's what's kind of confusing to me.
I wonder why he's been blackballed by the NFL. I just don't get it.
No idea.
It's weird. They did the Kaepernick thing. They did the Reed thing. I wonder what there is with Bieniemy that they don't want him in their league. It's kind of weird.
It is weird.
Coming up, 3 things we love from the weekend here on the opening drive on 101 ESPN. All right, 3 things we loved about the weekend here on 101 ESPN.
Number 3.
My number 3 is actually a funny story that came out this weekend. As we all know, and we'll get into this a little bit later, Cody Bellinger did indeed sign with the Cubs. Shocking, right?
Who saw that coming?
Nobody. But we were waiting around because we didn't know exactly when it was going to happen. But I don't know if you guys saw this, but this weekend, it was actually Thursday, a woman named Lisa Dubs on X actually tweeted out to a Cubs fan account. She scooped all of the writers in this. She said, in a reply to that Cubs fan account, I heard they signed Bellinger just now from a good friend who's in AZ right now, but can't find anything about it. Have you heard anything? So then people were trying to figure out how this woman named Lisa just randomly started picking this up before any of the other writers did. And they're like, oh, okay, maybe there's just something else going on there. Well, Jeb Passan actually gave her credit yesterday, and I'm sure he was joking a little bit. And he said, Lisa was right. I just think it's a very funny exchange because you could call it a coincidence, but I say don't doubt the power and knowledge of a woman's group chat.
That's great.
Lisa scooped everybody
I wonder how she did it.
from a friend of a friend.
That's great.
That's
One
how
time-
it came about.
Somebody, when the Braves signed A.J. Przinsky, the Braves manager was Freddie Gonzalez, and he was in line at a Heavenly Ham store to pick up a ham and told some random guy, yeah, we're signing A.J. Przinsky today. And that's how the Przinsky signing happened at a Heavenly Ham store.
What a story.
Yeah, isn't that great? The guy puts it on Twitter
more
right away.
of this to happen. Just the fact that you could randomly just hear via word of mouth.
Citizen reporting is the best.
How do you think it got out in AZ? Maybe somebody was out celebrating.
Yeah,
and then it
maybe
got
Cody
to
himself.
Yeah, you could see that.
Yeah.
It's happened to a couple times to our friends down the hall on TMA. There was a TMA listener who texted the show and just goes, "Hey, isn't this Dexter Fowler getting on a flight to St. Louis?" And a few hours later, the Dexter Fowler news was broken. That was just because a fan texted into their show because he was sitting in the airport and saw Fowler.
I just think it's funny because then a lot of the reporters would have to give you credit, essentially.
Well, before Chris Duncan worked here, he was doing some baseball skills stuff. And in 2011, his dad tells him that Adam Wainwright is going to have to undergo Tommy John surgery. And so Chris I don't know if he put it on social media or if he got in touch with somebody here. And I'm saying there's no way. No, not this early. You wouldn't have to have Adam undergoing Tommy John. And sure enough, Dave Duncan had told Chris Duncan, and Chris Duncan was telling everybody, yeah, Wayno's got to undergo Tommy John. So it does happen. It does happen. Brooke, my number 3 is the Billikens coming away with a victory after 5 straight losses and 5 straight home losses. Good to see a little bit of the pressure relieved from Travis Ford and those players. They're trying hard, and they're limited in what they're capable of doing right now. So it was good, even though it's going to wind up being a bad season for St. Louis University basketball. It was good to see them get a win and have them be able to celebrate for a few days.
And have the baby race.
The baby race was sensational, yeah. Congratulations to the baby that won. I don't know who it was. But congratulations to me on picking the baby that finished 3rd in the baby race. And I don't know what the odds... Well, no, we just played it straight up. What I said was, okay, everybody put $20 in a pot. And so that's what we did.
This feels like it was almost fixed now. I'm starting to feel something here, Randy.
Oh, no, you can't fix a baby race. There were out of all the babies, how many do you think there were, Matthew? 20?
Yeah, there's always almost 24. Yeah, it's a big run, and like you said, you get disqualified if the baby stands up, and
right.
They're you don't know what they're going to do next.
And probably,
could you imagine if that was the first time that the baby walked, but then people were also frustrated because it's like, no, not yet. This is important. We have money on this.
Yeah, right. But think about this. Think about watching the Kentucky Derby, and there's 19 horses, and only 4 of them leave the gate when it opens. That's kind of like this baby race. Most of the babies never even got out of the gate,
and they both get milk. Yeah. There you go.
We're gonna have an even better one of that. I love it when players bring their kids up to a podium, and I'm waiting for like a kid to say their first word, and the mom to be like, "I'm sorry, but why was the first word in front of national television with me not in the room? You monster!" That poor guy.
Number 2.
My number 2 is going to be Mason Wynn and his weekend. And we're going to get into this a little bit more, but going 3 for 3 with 2 singles, a double plus a stolen base, and the defensive play of the weekend for him, showing off his arm. I bet Justin Turner was crying somewhere, very upset about that. Isn't that just so horrible to see? How mad do you think he gets when he sees that? And it actually works out.
Yeah, you've got to be furious, right?
Has to be super angry. Either way, I'm very excited about the future of Mason Wynn. He was dealing with a little bit of back tightness.
How long do you think he's had that, Brooke?
About a week back.
There we go. We have got to get this figured out this season. I can't go through a whole year of this.
You already
again.
did. Come on, it should be easy now.
I know, but what is up with all this back tightness?
Oh, yeah, them. I don't know. Maybe they just draft and develop and get players that have back problems. I don't know.
We need to get a stretching program going over there.
Idea. Yeah, one of those things that where you have like your wrists and your ankles, and it just stretches you out. What's that called?
I think that was a torture device called the rack.
That's it. Yeah, they need a rack.
Torture device.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. But yes, that was my number 2, is just seeing Mason Wynn have a great game.
Brooke, my number 2, some people might look unkindly upon this, but my number 2 is Cam Newton being involved in an under-18 football camp and getting involved in
this one of your favorite things this
because this is entertainment. This is fantastic. So he gets involved in a brawl with all these kids that are involved in a 7-on-7 camp.
He got
jumped.
Of them.
He got jumped by 4 kids at a 7-on-7 camp.
Just to have him involved is spectacular. This is a former former NFL MVP. We're not talking Lawrence Phillips here. And by the way, Lawrence, when he lost, he ran people down with his car. It was a little bit different.
Oh.
But yeah, I liked seeing Cam Newton show that gumption, show that competitiveness, show that anger that he should have shown on the field when he was with the Patriots.
Before the show, I poked my head in and asked Jackson Burkett, I go, how many of your friends would you need to feel confident on running up on a 6'6", 240-pound former NFL athlete?
Four is the number.
Have they put out the story of how that even came about?
Not
But
yet.
first of all, you watch the video, and he did really well against all
he
six
did.
of them.
He's 6'6" and a former quarterback. The man used to throw down like 280-pound linebackers. I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it was spectacular.
His hat didn't come
quite
off.
I
enjoyable.
know. That's the craziest part to me is his hat his signature hat did not come off.
And he's got the hair coming through the top of the hat. Did you notice
Is that what it is?
Maybe it's
And it
locked
keeps it in
maybe it's
place?
locked in there.
There
Yeah.
you go. Oh, wow.
It's pretty good.
Wow. That is talent.
Number 1.
My number one is, even though we talked about this earlier, not the perfect game for City SC, but there's just something really special here about opening day in St. Louis for every single sport. And City SC was another example of that with all the fans that showed up. I know it was a little bit chillier the other night, but still the fan support here is so special. And just to be able to see that and see that atmosphere come back here is just so exciting. I enjoy every moment of it.
15 years down the road, do we have pink jackets?
Pink jackets?
Yeah. Or is it City Red? City Red jacket.
It's a city red.
Okay.
To me, I think it's a fuchsia, but that's me being very
Okay.
specific,
Fuchsia
which is
jackets.
a form of red and pink. But
It's rhodamine, all right? It's
Okay.
rhodamine.
Oh, that's even
it
better.
has a name.
It's
Oh.
called rhodamine.
Rhodamine.
I believe there's an
Okay.
R. I think it's RH somewhere in there.
Yeah,
I've
so you
always
should have
dreamed of having-
rhodamine jackets.
Always dreamed of having a rhodamine jacket.
There you go.
I like it. Why not just make it pink?
I mean, it is
not?
a
Who
form
cares?
I like pink.
of pink. Never heard of rhodamine. Now I'm going to look it up.
No one else
Tomorrow
had
on
either.
another 80-degree day, I'll wear a pink shirt. I will.
Ooh.
How about that?
There
I
you
got pink
go.
shirts. I'm confident. Brooke, my favorite thing, speaking of yesterday and today and tomorrow, my favorite thing about the weekend is that on February 25th, I went for a bike ride yesterday at Creve Coeur Park, and it was spectacular. The weather was unbelievable, and we're not supposed to be able to do that on February 25th in St. Louis, and I did. So the weather, Mother Nature, kudos. Good job, Mom.
Mom. Thanks, Mom. I enjoyed it this weekend as well. It was just so nice outside. And then you absolutely crushed me this morning by telling me that it's going to be cold again.
Yeah, Matt
here
Chambers.
soon.
Yeah, Matt Chambers at the first alert for you.
And we're second.
We're second alert for, so we will report it secondhand. Matt's saying 38 degrees on Wednesday. After 80 degrees today, 80 degrees tomorrow. Records. 38 on Wednesday. So be prepared and keep that big coat out.
I was waiting to put mine away, Randy.
Nope.
I thought this was it.
Nope.
I thought this was finally it.
Let me tell you, this is why I need to move.
Did you go golfing any?
I did not swing a club, Brooke. I did not swing it, but I'm going to today. I'll
There you
get
go.
out and swing a club. Okay, so here's what I got to tell you.
Yes.
Today, and this is notable for both of us.
Okay.
Today in Phoenix, 79. Tomorrow, 75. Wednesday, 75. Thursday, 77. Friday, 80. I don't know why I just don't move there. I just need to move.
Randy, no, you can't move there.
We got ways to. Everybody on ESPN does remote stuff.
You're saying that we just need to be live from Arizona?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Randy's not a morning person, but for a 5 a.m. wake up call, if it's in Arizona, he'll be a morning
Oh,
person.
you know I will. You know I will. Think about this, because with the time change, okay, so there'll be two different. So it'd be rather than 7, it'd be 5. So I'd have to get up at 4:30. But doing it remote, doing it from
Part of the year,
from there.
part of the year, you'd only be doing 6
Yeah.
because of their weird daylight saving thing over there.
Right, but I think they go from 1 hour behind us to 2 hours when we change.
Yeah.
They don't. So you're doing a 5. We do 7 to 10, so it'll be 5 to 8. Then you're on a golf course at 9:30.
Standing tea time. Sounds pretty good, Randy.
That's 3 things we loved about the weekend. +1 here on 101 ESPN. Next up, the Cardinals off to a 3-0 start after playing 2 games on Saturday, 1 yesterday. Who was the most impressive young Cardinal over the weekend? That's next on 101 ESPN. So in the next couple of days, you might be turning on the air conditioner, and that's why you need to get in touch with Hoffman Brothers Heating and Cooling. They'll come out and check out your air conditioner, make sure that you're good to go for the spring and summer here in St. Louis. Our friends at Hoffman Brothers are spectacular at what they do, and if you join their home protection plan, they'll remind you when you need to have your air conditioner and furnace checked out. They'll come out, they'll have free filters for you, and they'll make sure that everything is good to go. And if there is a timeline on your air conditioner, they'll say, hey, you need to make sure that you are ready to purchase a new air conditioner next year. They are so good at what they do. They're an official American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer here in St. Louis, and they'll provide maintenance, and they'll do it right for you. And oh, by the way, Hoffman Brothers is hiring HVAC professionals, and they have great benefits, including company-provided trucks or full-size vans, top pay in the industry with a generous bonus structure, plus paid vacation up to 20 days. It's Hoffman Brothers. Learn more about joining Hoffman Brothers by going to Hoffman Bros, Hoffmann, hoffmanbros.com. Make your appointment for your air conditioner today. Give them a call, 314-664-3011. It's Hoffman Brothers, Hoffmann, hoffmanbrothers.com.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. St. Louis City SC opened up their MLS season on Saturday with a 1-1 tie against Real Salt Lake. They'll be back in action on Tuesday, facing off against the Houston Dynamo in Leg 2 of their CONCACAF Champions Cup match. Also over the weekend, the Blues get beat up by the Detroit Red Wings 6-2 in their matinee game. Blues back in action tomorrow, facing off against the Jets in Winnipeg. That'll be a 7 p.m. puck drop. You can catch the pregame show right here on 101 ESPN starting at 6 p.m. And also over the weekend in college basketball, the Billikens get a big win over George Washington, 96-91. Mizzou still winless in the SEC after an 88-73 loss to Arkansas. And the Fighting Illini continue to win in the Big Ten, number 12 in the nation now, with a 95-85 win over Iowa. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff. Find new roads and shop 24/7 at londoff.com and londoffautoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
Cardinals 2-1 on the spring season. They did fall to the Marlins on Saturday. Choked big time in the 8th inning there. Lost by a score of 9-8. You don't want to be losing games like that. The Cardinals did enough of that last year, and we don't need to see any more of that.
No, you really set the standard for the season during spring training, right, Randy?
Just like last year.
Yeah, just like last year. Wait, how did they do
had
last
the best
year?
record in the spring, didn't they?
Oh.
But they did have, okay, so these games don't count, but they do matter. That's one of my favorite things about preseason. They don't count, but they do matter. I love when people say that.
Well, it gives us something to talk about, so it does matter in that regard.
Who'd you like this weekend?
Well, this weekend, I liked, of course, Mason Wynn. I feel like that's like the obvious answer when you're talking about the young stars that you like the most from this weekend. Mm-hmm. To me, it's going to be Mason Wynn because of everything he did yesterday. So I want to give some credit to some other guys, though. And also, by the way, if you haven't seen Mason Wynn going 3 for 3, also had that spectacular defensive play, stole a base as well. Mm-hmm. So a lot of things that you like to see there. from Mason Wynn and all the tools that he has. But I also really like a couple of other guys. One, Gordon Graceffo, 2 scoreless innings of relief against the Astros. And in that game, he faced some really big stars and names that you know, Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, and Kyle Tucker, and didn't allow a hit to any of those guys specifically. Even getting Bregman to swing a miss on a slider, to me, I think that was really good to see. Also, Riley O'Brien. I'm going to keep talking about Riley O'Brien because I really think that he's going to be a great addition to the bullpen.
Irish, yeah.
Oh, I don't,
Riley O'Brien.
We're not doing. We got rid of Jack Flaherty last year. The other Irishman.
Yeah.
And now we have Riley O'Brien. But I really like what he could possibly bring to this bullpen, and I think that he will make the opening day roster. What do you think, Randy?
I would be surprised if he didn't. He has really good stuff. Of all of those guys that they picked up during the offseason that had really good years in the minors last year, he's the one that had the best. He's the biggest swing and miss guy.
And that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
You want that, and it's going to take some time to develop it. Riley O'Brien has that currently. How soon do we see him in high leverage situations this season?
I would think that he has a chance with his stuff to get there early. And this is not an affront to what the Cardinals have already in their bullpen, okay? But I think that there was enough there were enough struggles last year that I kind of got an idea about what the Cardinals have in the back end this year. So if Kittredge gets opportunities, if Middleton gets opportunities, if O'Brien gets opportunities, I'm not going to be overly bothered by that.
No, I think that your bullpen already looks better with those additions.
Yeah, so I'm absolutely willing to give Riley O'Brien a look.
The old Irishman.
Yeah. So the
Old Irish.
All Irish. So Newt is off to a good start. You got to and this is the smallest of sample sizes, but they've got a kid that was actually born in London, Matt Koperniak, who's 3 for 4 already. He's got and he's been in the system. He was at Memphis last year. He was at Springfield the year before. He's got an OPS of 1.75, 3 for 4 already on the spring with a double. And when he hits it hard. He's got 3 RBIs. So I'm intrigued to see more of Matt Koperniak. And you mentioned Tink Hence. 4 strikeouts. Did you mention Tink?
No,
so
but
Tink has had 4 strikeouts in his 2 innings yesterday as well. So those are the 2 that I was intrigued by. And I don't know what Connor Thomas is anymore. Last year, the Cardinals had really high hopes for him, and he was hurt for most of the season. They'd put him on their roster, though, and they actually, in talking to them, they liked what they had from Connor Thomas. I don't know what they think of him now, but it was good to see him get 2 scoreless innings yesterday, too.
I guess we'll see, but that's the whole thing that you like, right, is that you have some competition going into the season, because it felt like you didn't have as much last year, and maybe that's because the World Baseball Classic, we weren't able to see all the different guys available, but it feels like you have a little bit more competition this season, which is what you want to see.
Right.
Now, Gordon Graceffo, where does he fit into this conversation? Because I want to go back to him because I do find him interesting. Of course, this is a very small sample size of what we saw, but what do you think that his path will be this season?
He needs to be healthy, first and foremost.
Yes.
They thought that he would be ready for this year, but he was hurt last year. And so I think they'll try to stretch him out as a starter at Memphis and have him ready and have him try to become the guy that they thought he was going to be. He was dynamic. He was the Cardinal Minor League Pitcher of the Year in 2022, and they thought that, okay, he's going to have a great year in Memphis, and then he'll be ready to rock and roll with us in 2023. They didn't anticipate having to sign Lynn and the other starters, Sonny Gray and Kyle Gibson. They didn't anticipate having to sign them because they thought that Liberatore and Graceffo would be ready, and they aren't. So they still think that they see the stuff, but I don't know if we can expect him to be here this year unless there are injuries. I would expect that he'll be a starter, though.
Yeah, I think that he would be a good starter for them, and I was expecting to see him and McGreevy at some point last season, but then we weren't able to see him yet because you mentioned the injuries with Gordon Graceffo. It'll be interesting today because we were supposed to see Tekoa Roby on the mound, but he's also dealing with back tightness.
How long has he had that?
About a week back.
Oh, there we go. Woo! Thank you.
We have got to work on this. What is going on with all the back tightness?
Yeah, that's something that they have to investigate because other teams aren't dealing with it.
And I get it's just spring training, and it's not that big of a deal. But still.
You had you kind of ruined part of last year, though. How much better are you if you have a healthy Arenado and a healthy Gorman all last year?
A lot better.
Yeah.
a lot better, I would say.
So Graceffa last year, 21 games, only 18 starts, by the way. So they need to just see more of him. And one other note about these young players was Hence, Wynn, Thomas, Graceffa, Koperniak. How much fun would it be if you have Riley O'Brien and then Matt Koperniak? Is that good? Did I do it?
It sounds right.
Okay.
I think that'd be a lot of fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Matthew, talking about the King Charles.
Oh my gosh, Randy, no.
I want to have him on my team.
Oh no, we're gonna have to hear this all season
If he
long.
makes it,
Are
yeah.
we? If he makes it, yes. But also Thomas Ajayci, I think, is another player to watch. Does he help with your infield depth? Because that's something that we do have to look at.
He might have been the best hitter in minor league baseball last year. I think he does. And I don't know what he is defensively. I know that there's been questions about his throwing arm, but that's something that they can work on. And I would think with his offensive ability and with by the way, I'm really surprised that they're using, well, I guess you have to play Gorman at second, right? But Gorman's got to wind up being their DH, doesn't he?
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, and Donovan at second.
Unless the nutrition plan has completely worked out for him and they believe
Yes.
he could be an everyday positional player.
By the way, Brooke, I got something for him.
What is this popcorn? Because that's out of his his diet, Randy. Did you not see John? Oh, you just threw popcorn on the ground. What is that? Reese's popcorn?
For Nolan Gorman.
Is that what he's been eating and then he cut that out and that's what?
Changed it. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, Randy, you don't want a sore back or a tight back or a stiff back, so you need to stay away from this popcorn.
No, this is the thing, Brooke. My back is never sore. I get that Popcornopolis from Costco, load up on it. I get Reese's popcorn, load up on it, and I never have a sore back. The problem that these players are having, the reason that they have sore backs is they're too healthy.
That's
And
what it is?
that's what it
well,
is.
supposedly Gorman wasn't healthy enough because he had to get rid of his favorite popcorn.
No, he was trying to. The problem was he was thinking that was the problem. In fact, what he needs to do is get a little bit of a gut.
Oh,
Yep.
is that what it is?
And he needs
Okay.
to, if he wants snacks while he's watching movies, it's the ultimate superfood, the 3 superfood food. We've already explained this, have we not?
Yes.
Okay. And for those of you that are uninitiated, almonds, superfood. Dark chocolate, superfood. Coconut, superfood. Edward Mark, dark chocolate, coconut covered almonds, Costco. Live it, love it, learn it, love it, live it. Learn it, live it, love it? Learn
Yeah,
it.
that sounds...
Learn it, love it, live it. Learn it, love it, live it. Superfoods. Nolan, I'm talking to you, baby.
There you go.
Coming up next year on 101 ESPN. We've got Take It or Leave It. You can send in a text. You can do so by just texting to 314-399-9646. 314-399. Yo-ho! Take It or Leave It coming your way on 101 ESPN.
Hey everyone, it's Brooke here, and this year we decided it was time to make a major upgrade to our home by updating our main bathroom. We have this house in U City that we absolutely love. It is over 100 years old, and we don't exactly, though, love our main bathroom. But this is the first time we've really done anything like this before. We weren't really sure where to start, so we decided to reach out to one of our great sponsors here of 101 ESPN, and that is EMB Granite. EMB Granite's team visited our house for a free consultation, and they really came up with a vision of how to transform our bathroom. My favorite part of working with EMB Granite was stopping by their showroom to explore their large selection of in-stock custom countertops and all of their cabinet options. Jen was the one who has been working with us, and she has just been fantastic. She came up with a great vision to really transform our bathroom and also something that fit within our budget. Their friendly and experienced team has been doing that for over 20 years now, turning visions into reality. So schedule your free consultation by calling 314-645-9300 or go online to embgranite.com or stop by their showroom today and tell them that Brooke sent you.
Time for Take It or Leave It.
Want to say something? Want to put it out there? If you like it, you can take it. If you don't, send it right back.
Get your text into 314-399-9646 and give us your Take It or Leave It.
Brought to you by Gloria Lou Realty. Visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com and start packing.
That's my final offer. Take it or leave it.
All right, it's time for Tioli here on 101 ESPN, and along the lines of what we were talking about before with the Cardinals and all of their back injuries and having people that are therapists and stuff like that. Brooke, take it or leave it. You recall Joey Chestnut missing an event with an injury.
Wait, you know what? I don't think that he has.
Nope.
No. He is always prepared. Always prepared to eat those hot dogs.
A hot dog and a beer.
Huh.
Yeah.
Are we getting to the bottom of this right
We
now?
are. Rod Beck, the late, great Rod Beck, was a closer for the Red Sox and the Cubs and the Giants. He was around and had the great line, you never heard of anybody pulling fat. And you can't pull fat.
Well, and then you guys have told me that I wasn't here for Lance Lynn, but the Lance Lynn story of when he lost weight and how it actually didn't work out for him.
So he committed himself. So Chris Carpenter was the most fit person in the world. Well, not maybe the world, but certainly on the Cardinals. And he would stay here in town during the offseason and run the steps at Busch Stadium. And Lance Lynn didn't want to run steps. You could tell. You could see. He was every man. But he did. He spent an offseason running steps with Chris Carpenter. Had his worst year. Skinny Lance was not nearly as good as Fat Lance.
And so it's a lesson learned.
It is. Yeah.
It is.
We need to be a little bit less cognizant of what people think is healthy. And let me, I mentioned this, and I say this with all due respect. I mentioned it to Matthew and Brooke during the break. But what do nutritionists make their money because of?
People who need advice on nutrition.
Getting people healthy.
Unhealthy and out of weight, right?
Getting people
Yeah.
healthy.
So if they have a completely healthy world, what do nutritionists do? I'm just saying.
They're out of a job.
Yes.
It's kind of like people who do consulting, right?
Uh-huh.
They always have to point out problems.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And
So-
they'd be completely out of a job.
So I say
I
this
see where you're going with this.
With all due respect to the nutritionists, pretty good idea, first of all. Pretty good idea.
But we're on to you. That's what
Yep.
you're saying. We're
Yep.
on to your business that you have going
Come
on
to
there.
Randy Karraker, and I will come up with a different name for it than nutritionist with a label and a college degree. But we're going to enjoy some burgers.
I can just see you doing ads right now, like an infomercial where it's just like, do you keep having a week back and you don't want a week back anymore? Well,
you have
come
it.
to me, and I will give you some great advice. We're going to start with a cheeseburger diet. We're going to go around town and try all the best cheeseburgers in town.
Yeah.
That's a great plan.
I've never had Max Local Eats. Is that terrible?
I haven't been there yet.
I guess we.
You guys are messing up.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
I used to go there once a week when it was just in when it was just in that tiny little kitchen at Tam Ave. And I've gone one time since it's been at the big place, and it's just that burger's perfect.
I gotta get there.
I got to get over there as well. Well, take it or leave it. Did you guys see this from this weekend? USC quarterback Caleb Williams and LSU quarterback Jaden Daniels will attend the NFL Scouting Combine in Indy this week for interviews and meetings, but neither plan to participate in throwing drills. Take it or leave it, and they will be doing their pro days, of course, but take it or leave it. It doesn't exactly matter for them if they participate in the combine with the throwing drills.
I'm going to take that because all they need to do is watch the tape. If pro teams can't watch the tape and figure it out, then shame on them. Just watch. Those guys can throw. Watch them in games. It doesn't matter what they do when there's no pass rush and there's nobody draped all over them. What you want to see is what they can do when they're under duress. That's what I wouldn't care if they didn't throw at the combine. I know teams say, well, we want them to do everything. We want them to compete. Well, that's not their job. They've already competed to be the top pick in the draft.
But what do you think about the other side of the argument is that it's a controlled environment on your pro day with receivers that you know. And so then, it makes a huge difference. But then
It does.
again, sometimes I think that there's just too much put into the combine. You already know the guy and what he's capable of. And if your decision is really changed that much by the combine, I know there's some guys who might be fringe and it could change the decision a little bit. But for a quarterback of that caliber, you pretty much know who they are at that
Right.
point.
All I want to do with I think it's 10 minutes. Do they have 10 or 15 minutes to interview players at the combine? I'm not sure.
It's one of the two.
But I don't care about any of the physical stuff. I mean, how often is a quarterback going to have to press 225 pounds, right? So all I want to do is interview him. All I want to do is get in a room with him and find out about his thought process in looking at a defense and preparing to attack a defense.
I also think that, and this is maybe just because I've been scorned as a Titans fan, and this is a clear example of something that happened. Dorial Green-Beckham, for whatever reason, it was the combine that solidified the Titans wanting to pick him up, and it didn't work out.
I texted Michelle this morning. They were talking about Justin Fields. Take it or leave it. Justin Fields is a nice, mature Vince Young.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I could take that.
Here's my thing about pro days. I'll on my deathbed, I will mutter the phrase 50 for 50. Ball never touched the ground.
Is that Sam Bradford?
Sam Bradford.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that
Yep.
stupid phrase 50 for 50. Ball never touched the ground. Best pro day I've ever seen.
Yep.
What
And
does it matter?
It doesn't, yeah.
If Sam Bradford is given a supporting cast, if he's ever given, because remember, he got here in 2010 when Steven Jackson had been used up. They never got him an offensive line. They never got him a receiver. He never had a chance. And if Sam Bradford would have been put in a situation where he was playing for a decent franchise that was trying to win, he would have been awesome.
I'm with you on that one. Take it or leave it. Storming the court should be an automatic forfeit. That'll stop it.
Yeah, I last week I was all for storming the court, and now you're hurting
Thank
people.
you.
Now you're hurting
Yes.
people. Yeah, you can't hurt people.
I said that last week, and I got some texts that were very upset about that.
Well, nobody had ever been hurt to that level before.
Yeah,
And now
that's true.
apparently the Wake Forest fans were going after him too. That's they were trying to initiate contact, which is pretty bad. So
Yeah.
the automatic forfeit is a good call there.
I don't want to take it away like completely.
I
You
think it
have
just
to.
has to be controlled a little bit. A controlled environment. If you can do that, I don't know if you can control the storming the
It's
court.
not storming the court anymore.
Yeah.
By nature, storming something means that you're doing it
You're not.
unruly and illegally.
Yeah.
I
You just asked George Washington. No, that's
Take it or leave it. Barkley to the Ravens. That makes the most sense. It would make that offense unstoppable.
Matt or Charles?
I believe they're going with Saquon.
Oh, Oh.
Matt Barkley. Wow, what a pull.
Okay. I'm going to leave it. Boy, that's an interesting one. Okay, I'll take it. I think that's a really, boy, if he's healthy, that's my only concern. Is he going to be healthy?
Yeah.
With the amount of money that they're going to put into him, because they already, the J.K. Dobbins experience didn't work out for them, but they need somebody that can carry the load, because Gus Edwards is not a guy that carries the load.
I've also seen a lot of Derrick Henry rumors with that, and who knows where he will go, but I could also see that being a landing spot for him.
I would be surprised if the Ravens would get themselves a 30-year-old running back.
Have you seen him working out, Randy?
Oh, yeah, I know.
He is in shape, okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Was he eating chocolate coconut-covered almonds?
Probably.
Okay, that's good then.
Superfood. Take it or leave it. The Cubs, the best team in the Central now after the Cody Bellinger signing.
I'm going to leave that. And Brooke, you don't necessarily agree with that either, do you?
No. Yeah, I'm going to have to leave that as well. We're going to discuss this a little bit later on, coming up at, that's 9:30.
9:30. Yep, 9:30.
Yes,
Yep.
9:30.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it. Take it or leave it. Victor Scott second. Victor Scott the second will be the Cardinals starting center field by opening day 2025.
Oh, take it.
I'm going to take that for sure.
Yeah. Now, here's the question. What happens with your team to allow him to be your opening day center fielder? Does Jordan Walker move into first?
Ooh.
Or does Tommy Edman move back into the infield?
Whoa.
I don't know what happens to allow Victor Scott. Maybe, I don't know. Do you
There's
move
a lot
Gorman
of
and his
things.
Goldie your DH and Walker your first baseman? Or does Walker become your DH?
Where's Wilson Contreras in this situation as well?
That's a great
There's
question.
so many things domino-wise.
They have way too many good players, Brooke.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Randy.
And thanks for your text. We do appreciate them. Coming up here on 101 ESPN, rumors in Canada indicate that the Senators might be listening on Brady Tkachuk. Should the Blues be interested? That's next on 101 ESPN. Quite a weekend in the Valley as we approach Arch Madness, March 7th through 10th at Enterprise Center. Get tickets at archmadness.com. The State Farm Missouri Valley Conference men's tournament. This weekend, Indiana State over UIC 88-73, but Northern Iowa took care of Drake 91-77. So now, as you look at the standings in the Valley, there is Indiana State leading the way with a record of 24-5, 15-3 in the conference, and Drake falls to a game behind, 14-4 in the conference, 23-8 overall. And this is the sort of thing that can happen in Arch Madness. Northern Iowa upending Drake, and Northern Iowa can upend anybody in the conference. That's why they call it Arch Madness. And you can get tickets now by going to archmadness.com. It really is one of the great events on the St. Louis sports calendar. You'll love it. And there's a great deal for your family right now at archmadness.com. 4 single-session tickets, 4 large sodas, 4 regular popcorns, all for just $100. It's a great family event, a great event that you will enjoy, and it's as fun a basketball event as you'll have because there is a ticket to March Madness on the line with Arch Madness here at Enterprise Center, March 7th through 10th, and you can get tickets now at archmadness.com.
Fresh perspective on the day's top stories. It's the Opening Drive's Fresh Take.
Interesting rumors over the weekend from Ryan Whitney, who suggests that perhaps St. Louis and Brady Tkachuk of the Ottawa Senators will be on the block. Ryan Whitney tweets, or X's, the Sens have something cooking right now. Rumor boys hearing that Ottawa would maybe move Brady Tkachuk. Can't believe it, though, because no one would be that dumb. 9 points out of the playoff with 2 games in hand. If Brady Tkachuk is on the market, and Brady is exceptionally talented, and he's not in a great spot, obviously, with the Ottawa Senators. But if I am the St. Louis Blues and Brady Tkachuk is on the market, I am going all in at trying to get him. And that includes giving up some of your young talent. And I know that everybody wants to trade Jordan Kyrou. And if I can move Jordan Kyrou in a move for Brady Tkachuk, I'm going to move him. I would move Perunovic. I would move draft picks. I would try to move heaven and earth to get Brady Tkachuk into a Blues sweater.
2 things. One, it was really fun hearing you say Rumor Boys.
Rumor Boys, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that was very entertaining to listen to. 2, do you really think that everybody wants to move on from Jordan Kyrou? Because we do know that he is very talented, but as we talked about this past weekend, you bench him in the 3rd period, and it seems like there continues to be questions about his consistency or maybe even his lack of effort at times. But we've seen when he can be really good. He's still a big part of this team. Do you think that everybody would be okay with moving on from Jordan Kyrou?
I would hope everybody in the Blues front office and everybody in Blues Nation would be happy with moving on from him to get a player of the skill set of Brady Tkachuk. Brady is exceptionally talented. He to me, he's a notch below Matthew. When Brady came out, people thought that he was, and he still might be, going to be better than Matthew. And he's got that edge to him. I think there were only 2 players in the league last year that led their teams in goals, points, and penalty minutes. And I think the 2 were Brady Tkachuk and Matthew Tkachuk. Brady is... He's a tough kid. Last year was an 83-point guy, 35 goals, 48 assists. He's conscientious. He's a great kid. He's exceptionally caring about everybody. He wears the C in Ottawa for a reason. If he came here, he should wear the C here. He's that sort of guy. I would give a ton to get Brady Tkachuk on my team.
Well, you were just talking about earlier, the Blues need a guy who will drag them into the fight.
Brady will.
And Brady, something with the Tkachuks, and, obviously we know with their father and what he was able to do, he has definitely taught them so well they have this very infectious energy and passion that they constantly bring to games. Brady Tkachuk, I feel like, would be a huge asset for the Blues. But I'm still thinking about, on the other side, the business side of this, what does that look like contract-wise, that you sign Jordan Kyrou to that big contract? He's supposed to be part of your organization for quite a while, and you're moving on from him.
But look at what Doug Armstrong has done in the past. He moved Chris Stewart after giving him the big contract and was able to get out from under it. He moved Yori Laterra after giving him the big contract, got out from under it, was able to move somehow Patrick Berglund, and was able to move Saboki even though there was only a year left on that deal. He's been able to admit mistakes and get out from under them. And I think that's one of the notable things about Army is that, unlike Mo, who gave that extension to Matt Carpenter, and I like Matt Carpenter, great guy, but he shouldn't have been given an $18.5 million a year extension. When Army recognizes that he's made a mistake, he admits it and is able to move on from it. And he's been able to get some pretty good talent back in return. Got Shen for Laterra, got O'Reilly in the Berglund trade. They've been able to do that. And if you could do that now with this particular situation, I think that the Blues, if they can, should take advantage of it. One point to be made here, though. Ryan Whitney points out that it would be dumb. Ottawa has new ownership, new owner that took over this season. Why, if you're a new owner, would you want to engender such bad feelings by moving the best player that you have and the guy that could be a player that leads you to a Stanley Cup?
And that's the problem that I see with this, is that it's really hard to understand why the Senators would want to move on for Brady because of all the things that we have listed here. But because of the point of the segment, it's just that possibility of floating around out there. I would like to see it. I think that Brady would be a great addition. You have a second chance with a Tkachuk. In this situation. Right. Because with Matthew, we would have loved to seen him in St. Louis. That didn't work out. Still hurts a little bit there, of course. Now you have another chance with Brady. This is your last chance with another Tkachuk, essentially. And you got to make it work.
Matthew will be a free agent when he's 30 or 31. So, but you still have 7 years left, right? So you do have a long time. But if you could get the guy, if you could get Brady now, man, that would be huge. He would walk into the dressing room as the Blues' best player. All due respect to Robert and Parayko and Binnington. Brady Tkachuk, if he comes here by the deadline, he walks into that dressing room and he's the Blues' best player.
Well, and then he has that relationship with Robert Thomas, as we know. So that would be something that you could see working out really, really well. From the 3-1-4, you're giving up a high-ceiling player in Kyrou for a generational player in Tkachuk. Why would you hesitate to make this deal? And I don't disagree. I wouldn't hesitate at all. We're just talking about hypotheticals here. What would you have to give up in order to get Tkachuk in this trade? We talked about Kyrou, but what else would you have to give up?
I would think Kyrou, it's going to hurt. You're going to give up a couple of picks, but if you get Brady Tkachuk, your first-round picks are going to be lower. They're going to be in the 20s anyway. And whoever you consider, Ottawa apparently was interested in Colton Parayko at one point. But I don't know if you're trading Brady Tkachuk, do you trade for a 30-year-old Parayko? I don't know if you make that move. Has Perunovic shown enough that you like him? If they want Matt Kessel, and I like what I've seen from Matt Kessel, but I would give up Kessel in a deal. And you probably are going to have to give up Snuggerud, Dvorsky, one of those two.
Now
right?
that's where it gets tough too.
But what you have to evaluate is, are Snuggerud and or Dvorsky ever going to be better than Brady Tkachuk? And maybe they will. But Brady Tkachuk brings so much more to the table for you in St. Louis than just the ability to play hockey, because he's an extremely marketable commodity. Can you imagine how many number 7 Tkachuk sweaters? Well, first of all, a lot of people will bring them out of the closet. But how many number 7 Tkachuk sweaters would be sold over at the Blues team store?
Oh, so many.
What if it's neighbors or first round pick and like Dvorsky?
Done.
And maybe probably another veteran.
Or another pick.
What would be the only deal that you would say, okay, it's making me hesitate just a little bit?
I think it'd be stupid to trade Robert Thomas for him, because I think you got basically the same guy. And you want to add to Robert Thomas. You want Robert Thomas to be a centerpiece for the future. You can have, if you can, and I know that Brady doesn't always play in the middle, but if you could start down the middle, if you're looking, when you plan on winning a cup again in probably 25, 26, if you can have Thomas and Tkachuk down the middle, it'd be a pretty good start.
I would love to see it. I think that it would be a fantastic idea. And like I said, I'd hate to see things not work out with Jordan Kyrou, but it is the business at the end of the day. That's part of what it is. Obviously, it seems like at times things are not working out here with him in St. Louis. If that opportunity arises, you can't pass on Tkachuk again.
And think about all the good young talent that we're talking about now that we're hesitant to give up. Dvorsky, Snuggerud, Neighbors, Kyrou. Those are skilled guys that other teams will have an interest in, and you don't have to give up all four, you wouldn't think, in a deal like that. So you give up a couple of those guys and some picks, I'm all in.
636, are you giving up Bennington?
I would not, and I again, if Ottawa trades Tkachuk, they're building for the long term. Benner, is he 30 or 31 now?
I believe he's 31.
So I don't think Ottawa, I think they'd be more interested in a Hofer, actually, than a Binnington if they're in the market for a goaler.
Okay, what if it's, I'm trying to make something realistic that isn't going to get laughed at by Ottawa.
Okay.
Kyrou, Neighbors, Hofer, and a first. I can't see Ottawa turning that down is why I'm saying it.
You probably have to add another first.
Kyrou, Neighbors, Hofer, and 2 firsts.
Yeah.
That's a lot, but I don't know. Here's the thing. I'm not balking at that.
Yeah.
I'm willing to do that for Brady Tkachuk.
I am too. Now, here's another thing that you could do if you really want to be a creative St. Louis Blues squad. And again, you have a lot of work. This would take a lot of heavy lifting. But let me find a guy for you, okay? So you said Kyrou, Neighbors, Hofer, a number 1, and maybe another number 1?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you add to that? I know it is.
This is
I
a
know
lot.
it is.
That's a quality scoring second liner, realistically in Kyrou, potentially an all-around first liner in Neighbors with an legit NHL shot, a starting goalie, multiple first rounders. But again, you're getting an all-world player in Brady Tkachuk.
Would you add in another draft choice or another piece and Brandon Saad and get Chychrun back too?
Oh.
Swing for the fence. Swing for the fence. Why don't you? At your shoes.
There's a lot there.
See, and you what you have to do is you have to add a value piece so that they'll take Saad off your hands.
By the way, 314 says Neighbors is a cold, dead hands kind of guy. And you know what? I'm tired of not trading those guys. I'm willing to take the risk from now on.
Yeah, Dylan Carlson's a cold, dead hands kind of guy too. I'll take Brady Tkachuk.
Anything for Brady. That's what we need to start.
Anything,
a campaign.
hashtag anything for Brady.
Anything for Brady. Let's start that campaign today. Even though it's just rumor boys who are saying that. Let's start that campaign.
Such a fun general manager for other GMs to deal with.
You would just be throwing everything at the...
Okay, let's expand this a little bit. Work with me here. I think Pierre Dorion was the guy that got fired. I don't even know who Ottawa's GM is right now. I think they whacked Dorion. And it might have been because he thought about trading Tkachuk. Hold on.
Darren on the YouTube chat, by the way, says, I'm not getting rid of Dvorsky and Snuggerud. They could be stars. No way I get rid of them. Anyone else can go. Something tells me the part of the sentence that says they could be stars is where you balk at that idea, Randy.
Here's a long-standing belief that I have.
Okay.
You always trade a might be for an is. Always.
Yeah.
How often look at base. How often do trades where you trade a bunch of prospects? We're going to talk about this tomorrow. The Blues gave up Patrice Tardif, Craig Johnson, a number 1 and another pick to get Wayne Gretzky. And people were saying, well, Patrice Tardif is going to be a star. Wayne Gretzky. Okay? So you don't know what Dvorsky is going to be. You don't know what Snuggerud is going to be. You got a guy that's already done it. He's a point-a-game guy in the NHL. I always take the guy that is for the guy that might be.
And 24 years old.
Yeah. That's our fresh take here on 101 ESPN. And coming up, we're going to ask Chris Kerber if he would make a trade. 5-6 elements for Tkachuk and Chychrun. I just threw it together.
He's going to love this.
It's next on 101 ESPN.
It's time for a DraftKings at Casino Queen Redbird Report on 101 ESPN.
Hey everyone, it's Brooke here for the Redbird Report. Cardinals started off Grapefruit League play this past weekend, and their rookie shortstop Mason Wynn was the story of the weekend. After missing Saturday's split squad game due to back tightness that was hampering him last week, he was ready to make up for it Sunday against the Astros. Wynn going 3 for 3 with 2 singles, a double plus a stolen base, and the defensive play of the day. Cardinals went on to shut out the Astros 3-0. Your Redbirds are back in action today against the Marlins. First pitch at 12:10. Takoa Roby was slated to start, but he's dealing with back tightness according to the Cardinals skipper Ollie Marmol, so it will be Sim Robertson taking the ball for his spring training debut.
The Redbird Report is presented by DraftKings at Casino Queen. Play, stay, dine at DraftKings at Casino Queen.
Hey, folks, Chris Kerber here, and Classic Air Care has been making people comfortable since 1926. Now, I know it's early on a Monday morning, but I'll simply do the math for you. That's nearly 100 years of making sure that people are comfortable in their homes, and Classic Air Care stands behind their work. A 4.8 rating on Google. How about reviews like this? These guys are amazing. Nick has taken care of my homes 3 times, always get amazing service. Dan was wonderful, would give them more than 10 stars, but 5 is the highest. That came from Joseph. And how about this one? Amazing experience with Christian. He did an amazing job inspecting our system and providing a comprehensive assessment and recommendations. And that's what you can expect from Classic Air Care. They're going to come in, they're going to inspect it. They're going to tell you exactly what it is. They're going to tell you exactly what the process is, and they're going to let you know every step of the way what's going to happen so you have no surprises, and your furnace and your air conditioner will be fixed and ready to go, keeping your home comfortable. So it's Classic Air Care, from repairs to replacements for all your HVAC needs. ClassicAirCare.com.
Time for Curbside with the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber. Brought to you by Scott Lee Heating Company, a proud Mitsubishi Electric Elite contractor.
Brooke Grimsley, Randy Karraker, the opening drive on 101 ESPN in St. Louis. Your St. Louis Blues are off today, and then tomorrow they'll take on the Jets in Winnipeg, and we go to the celebrity line now. And our friend, the voice of the Blues here on 101 ESPN, Chris Kerber, joins us as he does every Monday morning. Kerbs, good morning. How you doing?
Randy, I'm awesome. How are you guys?
Everything's good. Okay, Ryan Whitney from the Spittin' Chicklets podcast speculating that Brady Tkachuk might be a player that the Ottawa Senators are talking about moving. If you are in charge of the Blues, is that a guy that you would have interest in?
If I'm in charge of any team in the National Hockey League and maybe even a league over in England, I'm interested in that.
We were just talking about how far you'd go. I'd go really far to get Brady Tkachuk on my team.
Yeah, but it is a good question. How far do you go? I mean, the Ottawa Senators, have had him for a while and haven't made the playoffs, right? And by the way, that's not saying anything about Brady. What it's saying is you need more pieces than that, right?
Yes.
So it's still a matter of what you have, what you're building around him, and what direction you are going with the team, when it comes to that. So, it's fun to talk about. It's an amazing, maybe there's a possibility for a team out there. I mean, I look at it from another standpoint. Brady Tkachuk isn't your issue with the Ottawa Senators, okay? I mean, that has nothing to absolutely do with this. The only question is, do you feel like, if you're Steve Staios and you're taking over, you come in, you're president of hockey operations, you're in one of those situations where you're going, okay, we have Brady Tkachuk, but maybe we don't have enough of the other parts that it's going to take a while to, even far too longer to build this thing. So can you speed it up by moving him and getting a bunch of other parts? Yeah, maybe. But then look at that, Randy. I know the trade deadline deal is there. I don't know, especially with cap issues that teams are dealing with right now. That feels like a hockey deal that happens in the off season to me.
I'm not going to give you all the names, but I made a deal before the break already. I've got it done, and I'm getting Chychrun back too.
Oh, you are.
Yeah, I already made this deal. So I was telling these guys, other GMs would love to hear my offers.
You can fire. I'll let you know.
Okay. Here's what I got. I've got Kyrou. I've got Neighbors. I've got a number one. I've got Hofer, and maybe another number one. And I'll probably have to sweeten it for them because I in addition to Kyrou, I have to give Saad because of the $4.5 million, and I get back Chychrun, and I get back Brady, and so I'm getting, and obviously I'm going to open up a hole for myself between the pipes with my backup goalie, but I've got so much young talent on the way with Sugarud and with Dvorsky and the young guys that you have here already, Neighbors and Kyrou. I feel like I have a lot of skill that I can give up, and I can do a 5 elements for 2 or a 6 elements for 2 if I include more picks.
Yeah, listen, the only one I don't like in there is Jake, right? Just from a standpoint of there's so much more, future and maturity to him and stuff. But it is going to take any team. I mean, you saw what Matthew went for before, right? Okay, I mean, went for a 100-point player plus a top 4 defenseman. All right, so it's gonna take high-end skill off your roster or from your depth pool. And then the Blues, at least if you look at the Hockey News issue that just came up, the Blues have some depth. Now let me throw you a curveball beyond the excitement of what that would be. Okay, all right. Think of what the St. Louis Blues have coming here. I mean, you've got with what you could have at Snuggerud and the way Dvorsky's lighting up. And yeah, I know not every guy is going to play in the National Hockey League, and or maybe not every guy is going to play here with the St. Louis Blues. But the two Swedes they took in the first round are having good years. The Blues are poised to have a really solid, progression here, even without making a move like that. So it's fun, it's crazy, but why, if you're Ottawa, would you do that?
That's the thing.
Yeah.
And I said,
why if you're Ottawa, would you do that? That's what makes a rumor like this fun in sports talk. Like, Like, are you nuts?
Yep, you're a new owner, and you're Staios, and you're a new GM. If you want to disenfranchise your fans in a hurry, you trade your best player. And to me, Brady is a guy that can be a centerpiece for a championship team. That's why I would move heaven and earth to get him, because I think he's that guy. But Staios has to know that. I mean, and maybe he does it because he was drafted by the Blues. Maybe he thinks, I still like the Blues. They drafted me. But I probably not.
Well, I think if Ryan Whitney puts something out there, I don't think he's putting something out there on a whim. He obviously was told something, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so but the flip side of that is if you're Staios, of course you probably would. I mean, you should. When it comes to certain things, there's really nobody that is truly untouchable, is there? I mean, if you're the Ottawa Senators and you're 9 points out of a playoff spot right now, and you're looking at that kind of thing, okay, you look at it and if somebody's calling, you're going to listen. And sometimes that's all that happens here, and then a rumor gets out, somebody opens their mouth, and stuff happens. It's sort of like I don't. Are the Calgary Flames better off now that they traded Matthew Tkachuk?
No,
absolutely not. No, in that case, they didn't have an option because Matthew was going to be an unrestricted free agent, right? So that's a totally different scenario, maybe an unfair comparison. Brady's locked up under contract for quite a while here. So it's a totally different scenario. Very rarely, I'd have to really jog my memory here to think of the last time you had a really good, hockey trade of stardom, right? Where the team that the main star is leaving is better off because of it. And that's not easy to find.
No, it would be very silly for the Senators, but great for the Blues if we could figure out a way to work it out, right, Curbs?
Yeah,
I think we'd be all over that.
It would be exciting for a lot of people, I would think.
Yeah, well, Curbs, I always feel like I have to say this, but we do have to talk about the game this past weekend against the Red Wings. The biggest story, of course, is Robert. I know, I'm sorry. I don't want to do this every Monday.
Oh, my God, I'm leaving 70-degree weather to fly to Winnipeg today, and you're going to start my day like that.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm looking out my front window. I live in Manchester. There's a herd of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 deer just about crossing the street.
Is that what we call them? Wow.
Wait, oh my God, there's 7 of them. Well, that's a big buck. And I'm not a hunter. I like watching these things. I don't think I could shoot.
I like how Curbs is stalling away from what we need to talk about this weekend, Curbs.
My ADHD just got the best of me, but I'm dead serious. There's a group of 7 deer just walking through the yard. That's funny.
That feels very ominous. Well, of course, we have to ask you about Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou. They were benched in the third period. What do you think that the message that Drew Bannister was trying to send, what do you think that he was trying to say by doing that?
You know what? And I think he said it after the game when he said it wasn't just those guys. They need more from a lot of guys in that game. That's back-to-back. That's back-to-back Saturday afternoon games on national TV where, it was basically a no-show, right? And I do like what, I like what Braden Shen says, because there's an athlete and he was on it. He goes, I don't think it's a lack of effort. It's just, we make dumb decisions, and we're not putting the puck in the square. Well, you just can't have, 2 guys on a line doing the work and then one guy not. Or you can't have one line going, your next line not. And there needs to be a level from everybody top to bottom that comes in. You've got a chance to make the playoffs. And I don't know, does it matter if you make the playoffs or not to some of these guys? I got to hope it does, because still making the playoffs is a hard thing and a big thing in the NHL. So what I think happens in that situation is Drew Bannister's like, look, I get one crack at this. I've got one crack at this. And again, I call him the head coach because he's the head coach, but officially, obviously, Doug Armstrong called him the interim head coach, right? And the one thing Doug Armstrong told him is, I want to see accountability. Well, when you're benching 2 of your top 3 from your top line, that's going to tell you something, and that sends a message. Now, it sends a message of bring it or sit, but it's a dangerous line to walk because it could also send a message. Sometimes it could be hard to get that yarn back in a ball. So, but they're young players, and you just got to take it. Pavel Buchnevich was benched in that Tampa game, right? And his comments after were fantastic. He goes, I deserve to be benched. I wasn't good enough. I took bad penalties. And leaders are going to take that. Leaders are going to understand that. Leaders know that sometimes they're the ones that are being made example of to send a message to the rest of the team. And frankly, the game was so out of hand. Well, hopefully they're not all that ticked off about it and they handle it right.
Curbs, one thing about this trip is, and this is something also for Doug Armstrong to learn, is it's hard to win on the road. And the Blues are a completely different team than they were when they won the Stanley Cup. And one thing that they'll find out about is in a stretch like this, where it's really hard and the going is tough, who's willing to go to the corners? Who's willing to do the nasty stuff on the road in a hostile environment? I'm intrigued to see how this all plays out for the Blues over the course of the next now 8 games.
I'm right there with you. Make or break. The progress they made during that 5-game win streak, they gave it all right back over the last 9 games. In the win streak, they were finding a way to win games. Now they're finding ways to lose games. And listen, if you go back and listen to our coaches show with Drew Bannister, and this was the same thing with Craig Berube. These guys will tell you the game plan before the game, and it's amazing how you watch it happen. And Drew Bannister said, we have to come out strong. Like, if we don't come out hard and strong and have a really good start, this game could get out of hand to us in a hurry. And who'd have thought 5.5 minutes in, the game would have been over? So it is a matter of just execution from the players. But you're right, Randy. This is tight time. This is playoff time. And this is when you find out who's got it. Who's willing to go in the corners? Who's willing to go? If you're not going to go to the boards and win a puck battle, if you're not going to catch the puck, we've talked a lot about receiving passes lately, and that was awful in the last game. If you're not going to make plays like that, and you're not willing to maybe take a hit to hold that puck in the corner a little longer so your guys can get off the ice and another line change can start to come on, that's not winning hockey. And, Drew Bannister, when talking to the folks with ESPN before the last game, was talking about it. We've got to be able to hold the puck, and you look at all the metrics. You look at the styles of play, and it comes down to, are you willing to go into the dirty areas? And you've seen how the goal scoring has changed from a power play standpoint when they're going to the dirty areas to the front of the net, and that's the rest of it. So the one thing you're going to know, Randy and Brooke, is at the end of this 8-game stretch, whether or not the St. Louis Blues win more games and are still in the playoff hunt, whether they lose it and are knocked completely out of the picture, or whatever happens leading up to that March 8th trade deadline, you're going to get a real good snapshot of who some of your gutsy performers are and who the guys that have some real good winning character, because that's going to come in. This is going to be a tough stretch of hockey with everything on the line. And I think you're going to get a real good snapshot of just who really wants it.
Curbs, I have really fond memories of a big 6'4", 220-pound number 7 standing in front of the net.
I have that same fond memory of that guy smiling without teeth on his last day. And those 2 offspring of his playing in the NHL looking up kind of at everybody at center ice. So, listen. Go ahead and drool there, Randy. It's okay to dream. I would never tell anybody to not dream.
All right, brother. Have a good trip. Enjoy Winnipeg tomorrow and then Edmonton the day after.
Brooke, I'm really hoping for some good results over this week for next week.
Yeah.
No doubt. We'll see you, brother. Take care.
All right, bye, guys.
That's the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber on 101 ESPN. Coming up, do we need a fighter, Matthew?
Yes, we do.
Okay, we need a fighter. I've the one guy we gave an extra day to, but I beat him again. I didn't remember.
You already forgot?
Yeah. So
Adam. It was Adam.
Adam. Sorry, Adam.
Yeah, because last Monday we had Tim coming in for his Hall of Fame shot.
Yeah, how'd that go?
And then he did not get into the Hall of Fame. But yeah, we need another fighter today.
657 or no. Why do I do this?
What was that?
That was our old text line, Brooke. That was in place for 14 years, and occasionally, I never say another station that I was at, but occasionally. I'll give the old text line, which doesn't work anymore, by the way. It's 314-399-9646, 314-399. Yo-ho! Your name in the word fight. Maybe you'll fight me next on 101 ESPN. Make this the year that you get a wonderful outdoor project completed by Chesterfield Fence and Deck. Whether you need a fence, maybe you want to keep the pets in the yard, or privacy fence, maybe you want a new deck, or maybe you want to update your deck, turn it into a custom sunroom or a screen room. You can with Chesterfield Fence and Deck. Mention me and 101 ESPN and get 48 months interest-free financing on that project. Chesterfield Fence and Deck is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. They have amazing warranties on pretty much everything they do, and they really care about making sure that you have a great product. That's how they've lasted 56 years in business in St. Louis. They have their own professionally trained installation crews, their trucks, their tools. They operate out of their own warehouse in Chesterfield Valley, and they invite you to either come out and visit their facility, or they'll provide a free in-home estimate with no obligation and free project design, and they'll show you pictures of things they've done. Chesterfield Fence and Deck, if you want an outdoor project done, is the only place to go. Call them, 800-300-4054. Go to chesterfieldfence.com. Chesterfield Fence and Deck, the sign you have the very best.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Over the weekend, the Blues get drubbed by the Detroit Red Wings 6-1. They'll be back in action looking for a win in Winnipeg tomorrow evening. It's a 7 p.m. puck drop, 6 p.m. pregame show right here on your home for the St. Louis Blues, 101 ESPN. Also over the weekend, St. Louis City SC started their MLS season on Saturday evening, and they started it with a draw against Real Salt Lake, picking up 1 point. They'll be back in action tomorrow as they face off against the Houston Dynamo in Houston for leg 2 of their first round matchup in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. That is your Sports Center update. Brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
To the Randy Karraker.
Welcome back to the opening drive. Burke here alongside Randy. Dan will be back here tomorrow, and Matthew Rocchio. And it's now time for the fight. And our fighter on this Monday to start out the week is Brett. Brett, how are you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. Is this your first time facing Randy in the fight?
This is the first time, yes.
All right. You sound excited. I like the energy that you're bringing this Monday morning.
I'm ready to do it. I'm awake and ready.
There we go. All right. We're going to start with question number 1 for you, Brett, okay? Dan Marino is one of only 2 quarterbacks in NFL history to throw for 40 touchdowns in their career without winning a Super Bowl. But Marino made it. Who is the only 40 touchdown thrower to never play in a Super Bowl? Is it Dante Culpepper, Andrew Luck, or Josh Allen?
Ooh. Let's go Dante Culpepper.
Who is the last Cardinals All-Star second baseman? Is it Colton Wong, Matt Carpenter, or Ronnie Belliard?
Ooh, let's go Colton Wong.
Which pitcher was the main piece of the 2009 midseason deal for Mark DeRosa? Was it Randy Flores, Anthony Reyes, or Chris Perez?
Ooh. Anthony Reyes.
And who is the only Cardinals manager to guide the team to 3 different 100-win seasons? Is that Whitey Herzog, Billy Southworth, or Tony La Russa?
300-win seasons. Let's go with the Rat, Whitey Herzog.
All right, we'll double-check our score, and we will bring in Randy Karraker.
All right, how are you feeling, Brett?
Not too great.
No, not too great. You still seem really happy and excited. I appreciate that. What did you not feel great about?
I didn't know a lot of those. There were a lot of guesses there.
Okay, what is your sport, you would say?
I like hockey.
Okay, all right. Likes hockey and double checking. Yeah, no hockey. Dang it, Rock.
Yeah,
Why did you do
no
that?
hockey.
Oopsies.
The spring training weekend got me going. Sorry.
Randy's in here now. Randy, say hi to Brett.
Brett, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, Randy. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Thanks for listening. Thanks for playing.
Thank you.
All right. Question number 1 for you, Randy. Dan Marino is one of only 2 quarterbacks in NFL history to throw for 40 touchdowns in their career without winning a Super Bowl. But Marino made it. Who is the only 40 touchdown thrower to never play in a Super Bowl?
40 touchdowns and never played in a Super Bowl. Let me just run through this quickly before. Obviously, Marino was the first guy to throw for 40, so it's something that's happened in the last 40 years. 40 touchdowns and never played in a Super Bowl. You know what, Brooke? I think I'll just do the lifeline quickly so that we can. I don't have to go through every team.
For number 1, all right. Dante Culpepper, Andrew Luck, or Josh Allen?
Let's see. Culpepper, boy, they all had really good seasons. I don't know if Luck. Well, he might have done 40. I don't think Allen has done 40 yet. I'll go with Andrew Luck.
Randy, who was the last Cardinals All-Star second baseman?
All-Star second baseman for the Cardinals. Let's see. You've had a lot of them. I don't think Tony Womack made the All-Star game in 2004. As we move past, we have not had a great run of second base. You know what, though? I think Wonger may have made an all-star team. I'll go with Colton Wong.
Question 3, Randy. Which pitcher was the main piece of the 2009 midseason deal for Mark DeRosa?
2009 for Mark DeRosa. We traded... who was it? We traded Rob Kaminsky for Brandon Moss. Hold on here. I'll get this because I was just looking at this a couple days ago. 2009, who did we trade for DeRosa? I already used my lifeline. Darn it. Man, this should be right on the top of my head. I was looking at this just a few days ago at this guy's. I was actually doing Immaculate Grid, and this guy popped up. And now I can't think of who it was. This is terrible. You know what? I'm going to go with Perez, Chris Perez, Perez's last name, the closer. I'm going to go with Perez.
Randy, who is the only Cardinals manager to guide the team to 3 different 100-win seasons?
3 different. Well, Tony did it twice in 04 and 05. He didn't have another one. I don't think Mike Matheny did. He only had the one 100-win season. Whitey did not. Torrey did not. Red did not. Vern Rapp did not. Johnny Keane. I'll go Billy Southworth, just because it's a fun name to say, Billy Southworth.
All right. Do we have a winner in today's fight? No tiebreaker. Finally, we had like 3 tiebreakers in the last 6 fights. No tiebreaker today. That will roll over to tomorrow's fight, and we have a winner in today's fight. Does Randy Karraker start this week with a win, or does Brett come in and knock the champ off his perch? Ring that bell.
The winner and still champion of the fight, Randy Karraker. The fight is driven by CarShield. Plans to fit any budget. Visit carshield.com today.
Just win, baby.
I'm sorry, Brett. You got blanked a little bit here by Randy Karraker. He beat you 3-0.
That's all right, man. It was good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Appreciate you, Brett.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining the show. Let's go through the questions and the answers. Dan Marino, one of only 2 quarterbacks in NFL history to have a 40-touchdown season without winning a Super Bowl. He did make it to a Super Bowl, but Andrew Luck never did. He threw for 40. Dante Culpepper, 39 is his highest. Josh Allen with 36 for his highest. Last Cardinals All-Star second baseman was Matt Carpenter in 2013. Do you know who it was before that? You got to go all the way back to 1985 for Tommy Herr.
Huh?
2 All-Star second basemen in 30 years is legitimately surprising for this franchise.
Well,
It's 40 years at this point.
25 second baseman in that time.
Exactly, you're right. That makes it less surprising, but nonetheless, 40 years for the Cardinals, only 2 All-Stars at second base across the run. Which pitcher was the main piece of the 2009 midseason deal for Mark DeRosa? It was, in fact, Chris Perez. And the only Cardinals manager to guide the team to 3 different 100-win seasons was, in fact, Billy Southworth, as they dominated the 1940s. A 3-0 win for Randy Karraker in the fight today. Thank you again, Brett, for joining the fight and joining the show.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brett. Take care.
Thank
Have
you.
a great week and enjoy the good weather in St. Louis. Next up here on 101 ESPN, Adam Wainwright explained to MLB Network Radio why the Cardinals didn't win last year, and it's a really interesting reason. It's next on 101 ESPN. Hey, this is a beautiful day to head on over to Fenton Bar and Grill and have lunch on the patio. Today and tomorrow, the weather is going to be spectacular. The people at Fenton Bar and Grill are so much fun. Say hi to Kelly and Megan and Colleen and the gang, and Alicia will be there later in the week. And today they've got their fantastic pork loin special with mashed potatoes, brown gravy, and salad, or the vegetable of the day. And oh, by the way, their soups are always fantastic at the Fenton Bar and Grill. And if you want to go with something a little bit lighter, they have great wraps. They have great burgers, fantastic sandwiches, just a really tasty menu. And don't forget, the best wings in town. Their trashed wings over at the Fenton Barn Grill are spectacular. I was there on Friday, and we had the trashed wings, and man, are they delicious. Get them with their signature golden sauce, or maybe just go with some ranch, and I'm telling you, you're going to love the trashed wings at Fenton Barn Grill. Every time I stop by, I run into somebody that I know that is listening to the show. So when you go to Fenton Barn Grill, tell them Randy sent you. Learn more at FentonBarnGrill.com, just off of Rudder Road in Fenton. Fenton Barn Grill is the place to go for your lunch today or your happy hour. And once again, when you go, tell them Randy sent you. Brooke and Randy and Matthew here on 101 ESPN. Adam Wainwright joined MLB Network Radio. He's got a lot of stuff going on. He's got an album out. He's going to be appearing at the Grand Ole Opry. He is not pitching anymore, and the last year that he did pitch last year was kind of a disaster for the Cardinals, and he was asked about last year, the 2023 season, on MLB Network Radio.
Last year, nothing clicked. Here's the thing about baseball. Whether you want to admit it or not, sometimes the magic just doesn't happen. Sometimes it just didn't click like it's supposed to. Somebody didn't get the hit. Somebody didn't make the pitch. Somebody didn't, run the bases like they were supposed to. Somebody didn't back up the base like they were supposed to. And it wasn't the one thing all the time. It was one different thing every day. And usually, St. Louis Cardinals, we find ways to win the game. The winning teams find ways to win the games. Losing teams find ways to lose the games. And last year, we played like a losing team. We found a way to lose a lot of those games that we shouldn't have lost. And it wasn't, I'll tell you this, it wasn't the coaching staff's problem. Those guys were up till, those guys were barely sleeping at night for working, trying to figure out what was going on. And I think as I look back at it, the magic just didn't happen, man.
I love Adam. Everybody knows that. But I will say this, that backing up a base and getting a clutch hit is not magic. That is something that is prepared for in spring training, and that team was unprepared to deliver the magic. Part of the reason that the Cardinals were so despised for such a long time, and it started with Tony La Russa and continued under Mike Matheny and continued even more under Mike Schilt than Matheny, was that they put themselves in a position where the other team would lose the game. The Cardinals played so clean that inevitably the other team would find a way to mess it up. Last year, the Cardinals became the team that messed it up. That has nothing to do with magic.
And that's what he just said there, is that they were always finding ways to lose, which is something that we saw all of last season. And look, I do understand that it's up to the players to go out and execute. 100%, I completely understand that. Ollie Marmol can't go out there and do that for the players. But it does concern you when whatever message the coaching staff had last season and Ollie Marmol, it obviously was not translating well for the players. And that's how people tend to lose their jobs or when they go somewhere else, because it's just something that does happen. If your message is not getting through, then you go look at the manager and the coaching staff and saying, okay, well, why is this not working out? Why is this not resonating? And clearly, based off of this offseason and the moves that they made outside of Sonny Gray, but you could add Sonny Gray into that, they really put an emphasis on adding veteran leadership to the clubhouse. What does that tell you?
That there wasn't enough veteran leadership last year, right?
And that things were not good in the clubhouse.
Right.
And isn't that part of what you do as a coaching staff and manager is manage the people? And the people were not managed well, obviously, last season.
And Ali is getting the opportunity. He's the first Cardinal manager to lose 90 games and come back since 1916, when Rogers Hornsby lost 90 games and came back for another season. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. Brooke, I know that a lot of people are not, but I'll say, okay, fine. You didn't have 18 of your players during the Baseball Classic last year, and that caused you to not be as good as you planned on being. You didn't have pitching that you thought you had. It wasn't what you thought it was last year. You went out and got new pitching. You have given yourself the opportunity to institute those fundamentals. You've added to your coaching staff with Daniel Descalso and D.C. McLee, oh, by the way, and Dean Kiekefer on the pitching side. There are no excuses this year. There is no Winter Baseball Classic. You've got the coaching staff. Last year, I'll even say, okay, you lost Matt Holliday. You planned on having Matt Holliday, and you didn't think that you were going to have such a drop-off with Joe McEwing, but you did. There are no excuses this year, right?
There is no excuses. And you do have better roster construction. Now, is it exactly perfect? No. I think there's a lot of things that we might have wanted to see added, especially to the starting rotation. But still, at the same time, the roster construction is better than it was last year. I mean, the bullpen was not great. So I understand in some ways with Oli Marmol, the managing the bullpen, you ran into some issues because there weren't that many options available. We saw the starting rotation absolutely blow up last season. There's a lot of different factors that, you know, worked in that way to just see it implode in the way that it did. But I do wonder, do you think the Cardinals would have been a better team last season if they had had a different coaching staff?
I do.
Say that you just threw Bruce Bochy and his coaching staff in there.
There you go. That's exactly the one I was going to say.
Okay.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. And that comes from the veteran leadership of Bochy. It comes from having a coaching staff that has been there before or that he can coach. And I'm a big believer that the manager should be the leader. And Bochy, clearly, when you listen to those players, they revere him as their leader. So this isn't an Oli Marmol problem. This is an Oli Marmol's experience problem. The guys that are winning have experience. The Bochys, the Snitkers, the Ron Washingtons now with the Angels. Let's see what they do. The Dusty Bakers. Those guys have experience, and Oli doesn't. Oli is younger. He spent less years on this earth than Bruce Bochy has spent in pro baseball.
Wow.
So that experience plays a big role here.
Well, and then too, I think another thing that worked out for the Rangers, I know that I talked about them a lot last year, but I just liked how things worked out for them because there was a lot of stuff that went on behind the scenes. You have Chris Young, a former Major League Baseball player who also was, an Ivy League guy. You had that working together, but he had the ability and was given the ability to spend the money in the way that was needed. And it felt like there was a nice flow of energy from the front office ownership, front office down. And that's what I would like to see with the Cardinals. It just, from my perspective, sometimes it doesn't seem that way, where maybe especially last year that, okay, yes, that's the roster you're given. Would Oli have been able to advocate for maybe some of the pieces that he could tell were missing because he's there every single day seeing what might be wrong with this team? Would he be allowed to advocate for it, or would he also experience philosophical differences? I
would think that the philosophical differences, well, let me just lay it out for you. In 2021, was it 21 that they won, that he got fired? 22, 20. Yeah, 2021, the manager went to the Pobo, allegedly, and said, hey, can you get me a left-handed relief pitcher? I don't have anybody in the bullpen, a lefty that can get anybody out. And again, according to legend, was told, hey, you manage the blanking players, I'll get the blanking players, something to that effect. And that does cause philosophical differences. So, no, I don't think that Oli advocating for certain players makes a lot of sense on his part. And to the Cardinals' credit, Mr. DeWitt, he's been able to wipe that whiteboard clean, and they're getting an opportunity to start over. Let's see how they do with their next second chance.
Yeah, well, you have to do better. Hopefully the Magic will be back this season.
Let's hope. That's Brooke. I'm Randy, and that's today's Fresh Take on 101 ES. Or no, that's not the Fresh Take. That's just awesome stuff. Coming up.
We're kind of running into that. Yeah.
It's just awesome radio right there.
Come on, Randy.
Yeah. Rush Hour Reset next on 101 ESPN. Hey, I want you to know about Gutter Pros, and we're coming up on that time of year. We're going to have a ton of rain in St. Louis, and if you get home someday and it's pouring and you see water coming over the side of your gutters, that's not what your gutters are for. The water is supposed to go down the downspout, and that's where Gutter Pros can help you out. Go to gutterpros.com and set up your free appointment today. They'll come out and give you an estimate. They'll tell you what's wrong with your gutters and how you can make them work. Maybe your gutters are too small, and they have seamless 5-inch residential gutters that they'll put in, and the water will actually go down the downspout and act like the gutters are supposed to. And they've got leaf protection at Gutter Pros. They'll also help you out if you need soffit or fascia. They'll do that too. They're a great St. Louis company. When you make that appointment, they're going to have a St. Louis person that comes out to your home and tells you what's wrong with the gutter and how they can make it great for you. They have experienced salespeople. You'll love dealing with Gutter Pros, and they're low pressure. They aren't going to say, yeah, I'll call my boss and see if I can get you a better deal, or if you can sign this today, I can give you this deal. That's not the way Gutter Pros rolls. Trust me, you can trust them at gutterpros.com. Again, go to gutterpros.com, set up your appointment today, and make sure that your gutters are doing what they're supposed to do. After all, at Gutter Pros, water goes where they tell it to.
sports stories of the day on the opening drive with a Rush Hour Reset.
It is time for our Rush Hour Reset here on 101 ESPN. It is 9:07. Time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. City back against Houston tomorrow, the second leg of their CONCACAF tourney, and Matthew Rocchio has some breaking City news for us. What do you got, sir?
Yeah, well, this is something we expected after what happened on Saturday. St. Louis City SC has signed Michael Wenzel on short-term loan agreement from St. Louis City 2. Wenzel is a center back, which means that, they just needed the depth. So, Tim Parker could be good to go. Nielsen could be good to go. Maybe Yarrow is, but just at this point, the depth is being tested with the amount of games and with the injury to Kyle Hebert. And so you bring up Wenzel, and now you get a little bit more center back depth for another game.
And that's what we were talking about earlier, is that you really are testing your depth here early on. 4 games in 12 days for City SC. And as you mentioned, they are facing their first road matchup against the Houston Dynamo here soon. So it will be really interesting to see how this works out for him. You don't like to see this happening so early on. And with Tim Parker, do you think that he will be returned to action, or with this Wenzel call up, what does this mean?
They weren't that negative about Parker. They said they called it a muscle strain, and that it was more precautionary taking him out in the 35th minute. So I don't know if a muscle strain you get 2 full days to heal, plus you have to fly inside of that 2 days, and that's never a good thing if you're dealing with an injury as well. And so I would say if Parker's available, I would probably say he's probably not available for a full 90. I would question if Nielsen is going to be available again, because he's, again, just like Leuven, he missed the preseason because he was going back to get the green card, so he's not full fitness, and I don't think they wanted to play him a full 90, but because of the injuries, they had to. So I don't know if Nielsen's going to be ready to go either, so you had to make this move.
So if he doesn't play a full game and he isn't very effective in the time that he does play, does that hurt his Nielsen rating?
Oh, Randy. Randy, come on.
That earns a...
I was like, where's this going? Is he going to really take a deep dive into Nielsen here? Where is this going? I always get nervous with that. When I have that feeling Randy, of where is this going, I get nervous. It could go a million different ways. You never exactly know. But still, with City SC, you had their MLS opener this past weekend. I want to know if anybody was there to text, and Rock, I know you were there to talk about the atmosphere. We talk about it a lot, but it's one of the most fun atmospheres that I've been at around here, because it just always feels like a playoff environment is what it feels like to me.
It's incredible, and it's different and better than any other playoff environment, because people are literally waving their flags for 98 minutes or however long, and the crowd is always on its feet. It's a different environment than any pro sports environment in America. It's awesome.
It's incredible, and then you get the supporters section gets special rules with security, where they work with security to bring in like the smoke and the flares and things like that, and that really just changes the environment. Obviously, it's never going to get to the German or Turkish levels if you want to see some wild pictures of sporting events over there. No, it's not going to hit the Bundesliga level, but nonetheless, it's an incredible atmosphere for St. Louis.
Yeah, and it wasn't a perfect game for City SC. I know that we touched on it, but not a perfect game. The passes didn't always end up where they were supposed to. Defense left some gaps. But friend of the show, Sam Adeniran, he did score the equalizer for City SC.
We'll take the points.
Yeah, just one point from the draw. Just 1 point from the draw.
Singular point.
Oh, and here is Bradley Carnell, the coach after that game.
We just couldn't get the next one off, right? We just couldn't get that next pass, and that often broke down, and we had some transitions going the other way. Very cheap giveaways, and yeah, the boys were disappointed at halftime. They know we could do better, and we showed them some really good moments of the first half where if we just calm down and play through the lines and play through the pressure, then we can have really dangerous moments. I just thought we were very cheap tonight with the ball, and we gave it away a lot.
Cheap with the ball.
Cheap with the ball.
I love the soccer is that I've never heard a coach use the word cheap, like describing the way his guys played, but it makes a lot of sense when he says it like that.
I like that. I like it a lot. From the 636, Randy just dad jokes so hard, my shoes turned into grass-stained New Balances. Do you get the reference there, Randy?
Yes, I do.
You do. So
totally. As I'm at the grill with my grass-stained New Balance.
So Curbs and I have talked about this before, because he also wears the dad New Balances, which are very hip with the younger generation right now. I sound like an old person. There you go. You have the New Balances. And it's a very specific type. And you see a lot of fashion girls now wearing those specific New Balances in the same way. Yeah, have you seen that? And Curbs and I were talking about it where he said somebody approached him and was like, oh, where'd you get those New Balances? He's like, I don't know, just like at the store. And they were like, I've been trying to get those forever. And then he realized that they're a hot commodity right now. What do you think about this trend, Randy, and how you've been at the forefront of it?
I am pleased that I'm cutting edge. I had no idea.
Yes, you haven't seen that.
No. New Balance shoes, and by the way, nationally known, locally owned, right below us here at City Place, there's a New Balance store. I think New Balance shoes are the most comfortable shoes in the world, and I get why it's become a thing now. People finally have figured it out.
Yes, and they do it in the same way. They do the white socks with the New Balances, specifically the ones they like the dad shoes.
I'm going to give some people, if you don't want to go with the New Balance dad shoes and you actually want to get a very stylish pair of New Balances, here's all you need to do. Just Google it right now. If you want a low top, New Balance 550s. If you want a high top, New Balance 650s. Okay. Those are legitimately incredibly stylish, great colorways. My favorite New Balance shoe. I will talk about it all the time.
I'm so boring when it comes to tennis shoes. I just like regular old tennis shoes, and they're either white or they're black or they're white and black, and that's all I got.
Nothing wrong with that. And the Cardinals at noon today play down in Jupiter. They take on the Marlins. Yuri Perez pitches for Miami, and unfortunately, Tekoa Roby has an injury. He's dealing with a back issue. I don't know how long he's had it, Brooke.
Week back.
He's had about a week back. Tekoa Roby will not pitch.
We have got to get to the bottom of these back issues.
We do.
We can't do another year of this. One, for many reasons, Randy. I don't want to see a repeat of last season because I feel like a lot of those back injuries with the Nolans might have led to a lot of problems with the Cardinals on the field. But I just don't want to go through this again. Why is there so many back issues right now?
We have to fix this. It's a problem. No doubt about it.
No more popcorn for anybody down there.
No, well, not popcorn with coconut oil.
Yes, coconut. I don't know how I feel about that, honestly. When I read that, I was like, just coconut oil?
Buttered popcorn is, or Reese's popcorn. That's the way to go. So anyway, Sam Roberts, hey.
What?
Okay, we were having this discussion because today we will find out maybe how he wants to pronounce his name. So I'm not kidding. You can go look it up on YouTube. He has said his name, I'm not kidding, about 5 different ways in the past 3 years. So we've heard the most recent video that I found was him saying his name was Sim Robertsa. And that's how he's saying it. But then there's been other videos within the last year where he says Robertse, he says, reverse. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll figure it out. Maybe is he just kind of dumbing it down because he's like Americans are going to really struggle with this. So we got
Robertsa?
Robertsa.
Okay. So we'll go with that.
Yeah.
He gets a new
We can go with that because that's what I put on the Redbird report. I don't want to get yelled at today.
Robertsa, it is.
There it is.
He gets a new visa in the mail, and it's a SIM card.
Oh, Randy. Rock's not even acknowledging that one.
He's
that one
not.
Was
pretty good.
You didn't like that
It was
one?
pretty good. That's our Rush Hour Reset on 101 ESPN. Next up, what's it say about your St. Louis Blues that the interim coach saw fit to bench the 2 highest paid players on Saturday? That's next on 101 ESPN.
Woods, the All Things Basement Tea.
Okay, we've got 2 beautiful days coming up. Here's what I want you to do, either at lunchtime today or when you get off work. I want you to go pick up everything that you need for a barbecue, and I want you to go out and use the grill this afternoon and this evening when it's 80 degrees in St. Louis. You can head on over to the butcher and get some of their glorious ground beef and make some spectacular cheeseburgers with their fresh, tasty cheese. They have a fantastic cheese area over at Schnucks. Download the Schnucks Rewards app. Think about what you want during the course of the day. And then when you go to any Schnucks store, whatever one you're in, your list will take you through the store so that you'll have a very efficient, very quick shopping experience. You can go in and pick up the lettuce and tomato. Every time you go in, obviously, you're going to see the produce first. And then stop by the best bakery in town and get some of those fantastic brioche buns. And then head on back to the butcher and get that burger or maybe get some hot dogs. And then make sure you go through and pick up some frozen tater tots. Have a spectacular Monday or Tuesday meal and enjoy the outdoors here in St. Louis because you used the Schnucks Rewards app. Start your week at Schnucks and have a fantastic meal tonight. And don't forget, when you go through the store, do it with the Schnucks Rewards app.
I mean, they're not the only players. We had a large group of players, obviously, that didn't show up when you get beat 6-1 on the road. We'll address it within the room and we'll move forward on it. But as a group, we have to be better.
That is Blues interim head coach Drew Bannister. And Brooke, as we watch this unfold, it's one thing, and it's not a bad thing, to bench a player or players if they deserve it. But when you say what Drew Bannister just said, it's not just them, it's everybody. But you make an example of those 2 players, Thomas and Kyrou. You're an interim coach. What sort of a message are you sending to those 2? Because to me, that sounds like, okay, I want to punish the team, but I'm specifically using them. I'm zeroing in on those 2 to punish this team.
Because it can go one of 2 ways, and that's dependent on how the players react to it and how he knows how they will react to it. With Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou, by benching them, it does send a very strong message because everybody knows they're the guys with the 2 big contracts, and they're your young stars. They're also the guys on your top line. Mm-hmm. He's done it before with Pavel Buchnevich, and it worked out in a sense, but then you also wonder if it fully worked out, if that fractured the possible relationship, because it's a very gutsy move for the interim head coach to come in there and do that first move with Buchnevich, and then now you're doing this with Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou. That's a really gutsy move that can go one or 2 ways, and he did say that he was going to have a conversation with them separately afterwards. I would be interested to know how that conversation went, and we'll see how they respond to it. But I can't imagine that Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou were exactly thrilled with it. By the way, also Kapanen, he didn't see any action in the 3rd period of that game. I like that he's holding them accountable, but at the same time, will this message actually get through to anybody, and will it do what he's hoping it will do?
I would think a player that could accept that more, if I were going to bench a guy and I thought that he would understand it, I would go with the captain. It really sends a message if you sit the captain down for a 3rd period, doesn't it? Because then everybody else says, holy cow, a veteran guy, he's making a lot of money, he's got a long-term contract. I would think Braden Shen would be a lot more understanding. I would think, I'm not positive about this, but I would think he would be much more understanding of a situation like that. I just don't know that benching those 2 to punish them is a really good move, because in the Blues' hot streak, relatively speaking, they have Jordan and Kyrou have not played overall very bad.
No.
In fact, the game before, people were saying that Kyrou was the best player on the ice for the Blues.
Yeah, I know. It kind of sounds crazy that we're talking about that, and then he's benched the next game in the third period. And Robert Thomas, I believe, honestly, this has been such a good season for him, and he's continued to progress every single season. And you don't like to see a player have a bad game, but I do think a player is entitled to at least one bad game every once in a while. And was it a great game for him? No. Was it a good game for Kyrou? No. Each were -2, and then they logged a season low in ice time because of the benching. But at the same time, I think that the message would be that you're trying to say, okay, I'm going to hold everybody accountable here. Drew Bannister did say he was going to do that, but I worry about how this message is going to connect with the guys. It's going to kind of further create some issues with does it just seem like there's an issue between the veterans and the younger players connecting? Because we keep hearing this connectivity thing being brought up and how they're not connected. We heard it earlier in the season. We're hearing it again, and now we're seeing them get back to old habits in the way of good for one game, bad for one game. Do you worry that it would kind of also drive more of that?
Well, and these are they're not young players anymore. Robert Thomas was here in 2019.
He's 24.
24. Kyrou's 25. At some point, those excuses have to go by the boards. By the way, this is courtesy of Blues Muse on the X. Kyrou's last 11 games, 5 goals, 6 assists, 11 points, even in the plus-minus. Thomas's last 14 games, 3 goals, 18 assists, 21 points, -1. Schen's last 10 games, 1 goal, 4 assists, -2. Saad last 10 games, 3 goals, 1 assist, -3. Hayes last 10 games, no goals, 1 assist, -4. So why would it be Kyrou and Thomas and not Schenn and or Saad and or Hayes that get benched?
Well, because who has the bigger contracts? And I'm not saying it's right whatsoever, but that's clearly what he's trying to do there, right? But with Jordan Kyrou, at what point, and I do think that it's been an up and down season, sometimes you can call into question the consistency from him and the effort on some nights, but then there's other nights where we see the full potential. He does have talent, he does have skill, but it feels like we haven't seen him reach that full potential yet. With Jordan Kyrou, we had those issues with Craig Berube. We all know that. It was a very open secret and led to Craig Berube possibly being one of the reasons why he got fired. Now you have this with Drew Bannister. At what point does the message, though, get through to Jordan Kyrou?
And that's a great question. I don't know. I don't think Doug Armstrong knows. And if you're Doug Armstrong and you watch this happen, because clearly you thought Drew Bannister, one of the reasons that you made him your interim head coach was that he would be able to perhaps make things better with your quote-unquote young players like Kyrou. If you're Doug Armstrong right now, are you thinking you might have made a mistake with the Kyrou contract?
Possibly.
I think I am. I would be open to that idea that I signed a guy for the skill, but I didn't know enough about his approach and his desire to win.
Yeah, I think that that's fair, but at the same time, it's very interesting to have this benching happening because, as you mentioned, Schenn, you could argue that he could deserve to be benched. Hayes, too. Those guys have also had inconsistent play this season, but then again, they don't have that big contract, and I think that's what this just all comes back to.
It feels kind of political to me.
It does, a little bit. Yeah. And I don't know exactly how you solve it.
No, because at some point, sure, when they have the money, the one thing you can take away from them is ice time. I'm not so sure Jordan Kyrou cares. I know Robert Thomas cares about his ice time. He's played really well. He had a bad game on Saturday.
That's what I was saying. It was a bad game, but overall, It's been a great season for him.
And Kyrou clearly, when he said what he said about Berube and cried, he showed that he cared on that day. But when you look at the overall roller coaster ride that it appears we're on from an effort standpoint with him, I don't know if it bothers him that he's benched or not.
I don't know either. Does it feel like, too, because of this big contract, then he becomes under a microscope and the new punching bag in a sense? Every little thing that he does is going to be torn apart, good or bad.
Right, and it is. And clearly not only by us, right?
No.
It's by his coaching staff, too. This brings to mind a time back in my day, when the Blues, Mike Keenan, signed a free agent by the name of Joe Murphy, who was a pretty good player. But Keenan and Murphy did not get along, and there was a game in New York against the Rangers where Keenan sat Murphy for the first period, sat Murphy for the second period. Third period, somebody gets hurt. Keenan says, Joe, get out there. Murphy just sits there, doesn't even listen to him. Shift goes by. Keenan again pats him. Murph, get out there. Doesn't do it. Finally, Keenan comes over to him during the next break, says, Joe, get out there. Murphy says, Jojo tired. hadn't skated, hadn't been on the ice all night. Jojo tired. And I think that was kind of the beginning. Well, maybe that was the end of the end for Joe Murphy as a member of the Blues. Jojo tired.
That's so good.
That's a comeback against the coach, isn't it?
It is.
Pretty good. That's Brooke. I'm Randy. Coming up, Cody Bellinger is back with the Cubs, but how much does this change them? That's next on 101 ESPN. Guys, it's such a hassle to be worn out. And as we get older, we think, I'm older and I should be worn out. You shouldn't. You shouldn't. And one of the reasons that you're worn out is because as you get older, your testosterone level decreases. It happens to every guy. And at Mentality, they have an FDA-approved testosterone supplemental treatment that will restore your testosterone level, and that restores your energy so you aren't fatigued right at the beginning of a day. And if you want to walk 18 holes of golf, it doesn't take all of the gas out of your tank. Or if you want to get through a workout, it can make a massive difference for you when you go to Mentality and restore your testosterone level. What their board-certified physicians are going to do is do a complete panel on your blood work to find out where your testosterone level is. And then they're going to use this treatment to get it back to normal. Now, your primary physician might say, yeah, you're in that normal range. Well, for testosterone, that range is really wide, and they're going to get you to the higher level of normal at Mentality. Here's what you need to do. Go to their website, lowtusa.com. Find out what they do. Make an appointment today and get in there. Tell them that Randy sent you, and you'll feel so much better. They're going to work with your insurance company to make sure that you don't pay as much as your out-of-pocket is going to be as little as possible, and it'll change the way you feel. It'll change your life. Go to Mentality today, lowtusa.com.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Over the weekend, St. Louis City kicked off their MLS season with a draw against Real Salt Lake. They'll be back in action on Tuesday, facing off against the Houston Dynamo in Leg 2 of their CONCACAF Champions Cup matchup, and they have made a move today. Michael Wenzel signs a 4-day loan from the STL City 2 squad to come up to STL City. He'll be available for the CONCACAF match matchup on Tuesday. Blues over the weekend get beat up by the Detroit Red Wings 6-1 in their Saturday matinee. They'll be back in action tomorrow evening, facing off against the Jets in Winnipeg. 7 p.m. puck drop. You can catch the pregame show right here at 6 p.m. Cardinals spring training in full swing now, and today 12:10 p.m. first pitch for the Cardinals and the Marlins. That is your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
The Chicago Cubs finally re-signed Cody Bellinger, who had a great year for them last year. He gets a 3-year contract worth $80 million with opt-outs after each of the first 2 seasons. And Cody Bellinger has sat out a long time, and hopefully, from the Cubs standpoint, not from the Cardinals standpoint, he'll be able to maintain a lot of what he did last year. He was superb last year in bouncing back for the Cubs. 307 batting average, 356 on base, 525 slug. He had 26 homers, 29 doubles, 20 stolen bases, and 97 RBIs. And the Cubs are hoping that he can be that middle of the lineup presence that he delivered last year. They also acquired a promising young hitter in Michael Busch from the Dodgers earlier in the spring. And they've signed several pitchers, Hector Neris in their bullpen, who's been a really good closer in the past. They also signed Shode Imanaga, a left-hander from Japan. So how different are the Cubs? And by the way, let's not dismiss their new manager, Craig Counsell. How different are they now than they were last year at the end of the year?
I would say slightly different. And they finished with 83 wins last season.
Right.
I believe
and
83
we're a disaster
wins.
down the stretch.
Yeah, I feel slightly different. Now, I started looking at their starting rotation last night. Of course, we all know Justin Steele, but then there's some other question marks surrounding them after that. Jameson Tyone, you have him. Shota Imanaga, we'll be interested to see what he looks like, but you never know how things will go. That's a big change from Japan to now Major League Baseball over here. And then you have Kyle Hendricks. And then after that, there's really some question marks. And Craig Counsell has supposedly said they might look at, and now this is very innovative, guys, okay? I don't know if you've heard about this before.
What?
A 6-man starting rotation.
Oh, Brooke, okay, I got to tell you. We used to go with 4-man rotations.
Oh.
We used to go with 4-man rotations.
How?
We just had guys throw 275 innings.
No, that's impossible, Randy. That's impossible.
It really happened. I'm telling you.
Well, not anymore. That is gone by the wayside.
Rotation. Well, if anybody has done the pitch guys for a short time in a game thing, it's Craig Counsell, right? He's used an opener in a NLCS game. So he's very creative with the way he approaches it. I don't necessarily agree with it, but one thing about him is that he always wins. So I think one of the things that he does best, Craig Counsell does best, is make a bullpen. And they'll make a bullpen in Chicago. And the question is what they have offensively going to be enough? Defensively, with getting Bellinger back, by the way, they're superb up the middle with Swanson and Horner and now Bellinger in center field. 3 Gold Glove caliber guys. So their defense should be very, very good. And the question, I think you'd hit the nail on the head, Brooke, is the depth in starting pitching enough for them to succeed?
Yeah, because just ask the Cardinals last season. I mean, it's you've seen how pitching can just really make things fall apart, of course, with other things. But pitching was a big reason why the Cardinals struggled so much last season, especially early on with their starting pitching. You can see how if you don't have some set answers there and there's a lot of question marks, that it can really start to fall through. So I'm just very curious to see how he handles this. And with bringing Cody Bellinger, that was a no-brainer, right? It just makes a lot of sense, and you knew it was going to happen. Does this mean that Scott Boras won?
There was a projection from, and Ken Rosenthal has a piece up at The Athletic. One projection from MLB Trade Rumors before free agency started was that Bellinger would get 12 years and $260 million, and there was another projection for 6 years and $130 million. He got 3 years and $80 million. So I don't think Boras did win, and I wonder if this might embolden the teams now with Montgomery and with Snell and with Matt Chapman to just hold their ground and say, no, we aren't going to give him what you think he should get. We're going to give him what we think he should get. And I think that will be something that backfires on Scott Boras. I don't think he won.
Well, the fact that we were just still waiting, too, for Jordan Montgomery and for Blake Snell to see where in the world they're going to land, and then you have Cody Bellinger finally coming off the board, I just don't know where those guys go, because it's like they're waiting for an injury to happen, but how much longer are they going to wait?
And they need an injury to happen to a team that has money to spend. And even though we had an injury with the Mets, they've lost Kodai Senga for at least the first part of the regular season. The Mets aren't even inclined so far to go after Montgomery and Snell for what Boras wants. I'm really intrigued to find out where they go. And if I'm the Cardinals, I'm still looking at this because the price might come back to something that is more palatable for you with the fact that you have 1-year contracts for Lynn and Gibson. Why not sign Jordan Montgomery if you can get a reasonable 3 or 4 year deal?
I can see Jordan Montgomery possibly taking a 1 or 2 year deal, and if that is a possibility and something he's looking for, the Cardinals have to take that.
Yeah.
It would be silly not to. Now, Blake Snell, it seems like that he is wanting those years, that he wants more of that.
Well, there was a report that he was offered 6 years and 150 by the Yankees and wanted 9 years. Blake Snell's not getting 9 years from anybody. He's 31 years old. So hopefully that deal is still on the table for him, for his sake, because I think that Scott Boras is out of his mind thinking that he's going to get these deals.
No, he is. Now we have Cody Bellinger with the Cubs. Where do you think that they finish in the division?
I would say that they're in the top 3. I think it's going to be a really tight race. I don't think that Milwaukee is close, and I don't think Pittsburgh is close. I think it's Cards, Cubs, Reds right now. And I would go in that order, Cards, Cubs, Reds. How about you?
I could see that. But then I've also seen a lot of other things happen last season, so you never know. The Reds, I still think, are a very intriguing team. I don't know exactly what to expect from them this season.
I couldn't figure out how they did it last year, but having an entire year.
They were aggressive.
Right.
They were aggressive.
There's
they were just a very aggressive team.
Yep.
But they had terrible pitching.
They did. But they got hot when De La Cruz came up, and he was super aggressive. And they've added to their pitching. They signed Frankie Montas. They added Nick Martinez, so that they have some guys in their rotation now who at least have done it before, even though they've dealt with some injuries. I think they're an interesting team, and I think they'll be able to hit. By the way, those numbers that I passed along from the Ken Rosenthal article, the Athletics' Tim Britton had projected that Bellinger would get 6 years and $162 million. The offer from MLB Trade Rumors that they projected was 12 years and $264 million. And he wound up getting 3 years and $80 million.
Ooh. There is a difference. The $80 million is nice.
No, it is, but I wonder if Boras has just overplayed his hand here.
Yeah. It does. It feels like the owners are taking a stand, because the only team who is spending kind of the money that I feel like Boras is wanting for these guys is the Dodgers, and they're done.
And they didn't sign a single Boras client either.
Yeah.
Also, I think it just gets back to, we played the Miles Michaelis audio late last week, and he talked about how the discussion's going. Well, when a guy has one big year, the agent wants to focus on that, but the team wants to focus on the 3 bad years you had around the big year, because, well, you're never going to replicate the big year, so I got to pay you like you're not going to replicate it. But Boras is sitting there saying, whoa, NL MVP, ladies and gentlemen, let's show some respect to the guy and pay him the money. We're seeing that exact conversation here.
Let me throw another thing out there. If I'm a Cubs fan, I'm pissed.
Yep.
It was great to go out. We're talking about questions in the back of their rotation, right?
Yes.
Why aren't the Cubs in on Snell and Montgomery? They've got Marquee. They've built their own version of Ballpark Village that is raking in money. Hell, they've got a sports book in their Ballpark Village in Illinois. They are raking in the dollars. If I'm a Cubs fan, I'm wondering, why the hell didn't we go get one of those other starting pitchers? Imanaga's nice. Justin Steele is really good. I'm glad we brought Hendricks back, but you got 2 guys that would clearly be in our top 5 out there on the market. You already worked a deal for one of Boras's guys. Why not see if you can do it again?
And Emenaga is going to be more of a middle of the rotation guy. He doesn't solve really the questions there, but you really do have a lot of questions surrounding your starting rotation. You have those two guys floating around there. I would be upset that your name's not out there in those and trying to get them over there. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just surprised that they haven't done more. Their off season in general was surprising to me because I thought as soon as they signed Counsell, and that was such a bold move, that there'd be many other bold moves to follow.
Yeah. If you're going to spend $8 million a year on a manager, you should give them a roster.
And what is their market size, like sports market wise?
2.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I guess 3.
Yeah.
But they kind of own Chicago. The White Sox are such a non-factor. Mets and Yankees are both trying, and then the Dodgers and the Angels to an extent. But there's really only one team in Chicago. So all due respect to the White Sox, people don't even realize that they won the 2005 World Series. Makes them mad. So yeah, I'm really interested to see how they perform because they should be better. The Cubs should. Thankfully, they're a sleeping giant that is still sleeping. Coming up next year on 101 ESPN, we've got Rock and Roll here on the opening drive.
Morning people wake up for peace and quiet. McDonald's breakfast people, we wake up for the sweet rush of getting that warm, delicious breakfast right before it ends.
Start your morning with a sausage McMuffin with egg, savory hot sausage, and melty American cheese. Also get a bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit with thick-cut Applewood smoked bacon. Mix and match 2 for just $4.69. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal. Single item at regular price.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Tired of the usual daily fantasy lineup games? Well, Underdog Fantasy has a new Pick'em product here in Missouri called Pick'em Champions. You just pick 2 to 5 players from at least 2 different teams, select higher or lower on those player stat projections, and then once your entry is ready, you're going to be entered in alongside other underdogs with your entry fee. My favorite part about Underdog Fantasy is that it's perfect for me to put in my entries around the Blues and the NBA games that I love to watch. Don't have a Blues game till tomorrow, so let's put in an NBA entry for tonight. Brunson lower than 31.5 points. I know he's playing the Pistons, but 30 is still a tough one to bank on a guy hitting in a game like that, so we'll go lower than 31.5 points on Brunson. Sabonis lower than 44 points, assists, and rebounds combined. Jaren Jackson Jr. of the Memphis Grizzlies, I think he's going to have a big game. We're going to go higher on 29.5 points and rebounds with him, and we're going to round out our 4 entries with Siakam playing his old team, the Raptors, going higher than 24.5 points plus assists. That will get you 10x on your entry. And just wait a minute. Just wait till Underdog Fantasy on Twitter puts out one of their bonuses today, and you can even add that up to 5. You could add some scorchers to boost the money that you could win on Underdog Fantasy. It's super easy to play and even easier to get started. You just go to their easy-to-use mobile app or to UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with promo code ROCC, and Underdog will match your first deposit up to $100. Plus, they'll give you a mystery special pick to use on your first Pick'em entry. Maybe that's how you take your entry up to 5. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code ROCK to get your first deposit of $10 or more up to $100, plus that special pick. Must be 18 plus and present this day where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concern with your play. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncbgambling.org.
serve those who served. Apply now for rewarding careers in Poplar Bluff and make a difference in rural veteran health care. Visit vacareers.va.gov.
I want to rock. And roll.
Let's rock. Let's rock today.
It is time for rock and roll as we head down the stretch on this edition of the opening drive on 101 ESPN. We've got T-Mac and Ajax coming up with a balloon party, and then BK and Ferrario, and then the Fast Lane from 2 to 6 here on 101 ESPN. Matthew, what do you got for us?
Well, that's what you can do with the rest of your day, but I know how we start off our day is every day listening to our good friend Michelle Smallman and Chris Canty and Evan Cohen on Unsportsmanlike, and they were talking about obviously one of the most popular topics right now with NFL football, which is Justin Fields, the Chicago Bears, and the Caleb Williams question. First of all, before we get into the actual football question here, Randy, you brought up something that Justin Fields said the other day, and that was that if he had to pick between Michael Jordan and LeBron James, Justin Fields is going to take LeBron James, and he said this while being the quarterback of the Chicago Bears.
Yes, on the 33rd team.
Good idea, bad idea?
Not a great idea.
Bad idea. So let me get this straight. He unfollowed or never followed the Bears on Instagram, and then he says that.
Yep, he was on the 33rd team podcast, so we've got audio and video evidence. Quote, I like LeBron. I like LeBron over MJ, unquote.
He didn't expand on that?
I'm sure he did. But that's the. I mean,
that's all you need.
The money quote right
that's
there.
all Chicago people are going to need to hear to completely turn on him. Well, let's move to the on-field discussion because I think that's where it really heats up because people are wondering: do you take Caleb Williams? Do you trade away Justin Fields? And Randy Karraker, you asked me a question before the show, kind of getting into Justin Fields, which is how many times have you not known what a quarterback is after his third season? And the only one I can think of is Alex Smith. Mm-hmm. And man, I don't think that's the example you want to roll with when you're going to have to pay a guy a big contract eventually. By the way, Justin Fields, 17 touchdowns is his career high right now. Mm-hmm. It took Alex Smith until his 7th year in the league with the Chiefs before he ever hit 20.
And I would argue, at least from my perspective, that I never in his entire career thought of Alex Smith as a guy potentially that could play in a Super Bowl. I could have never envisioned Alex Smith playing in a Super Bowl. And my argument here, Brooke, and I think we've talked about it before, normally after a quarterback's third year, you have an idea as to whether or not he's capable of winning for you or not. Mm-hmm. And maybe Justin Fields will turn into a different guy, but it will be a rare occurrence, as Matthew just pointed out, if Justin Fields turns into a playoff winning Super Bowl quality quarterback.
You don't think that the situation was something that you have to factor in there with Chicago?
I think it is, but quarterbacks work around situations all the time.
Of course.
Peyton Manning did when he was a young player in Indianapolis. Obviously, you look at Justin Herbert. He had horrible coaching, but he was able to get a team to the playoffs and was able to put up great numbers. And I don't know of anybody that doesn't think that Justin Herbert is a potentially great Super Bowl quality NFL quarterback, even though the coaching has been bad and there's been dysfunction in the building. Fields has never been able to rise above that stuff.
That is a good point. And by the way, Caleb Williams picks MJ as his GOAT.
Yes, isn't that interesting?
I think we're starting to put the pieces together here. I do think, though, at the end of the day, that maybe a different situation could benefit Justin Fields, and they're going to go with Caleb Williams with their pick. Mm-hmm. It seems like it makes the most sense. Also, money-wise, too.
Mm-hmm. And Justin Fields, I mentioned to you guys off the air, he's like a nice, mature Vince Young at this point. He's got such great physical ability. And maybe he can go somewhere where they do have a good quarterback coach and an offensive coordinator that can play to his talents. And perhaps he can wind up being a playoff quality quarterback. We just haven't seen it to this point yet. And I don't think he's a guy that you're going to win because of. I think he's a guy that you can win with, but I don't think Justin Williams is ever going to be that that Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow type of guy that you win games because of.
Yeah, and just a couple of numbers here to throw out. In the sack numbers on Fields in his career, 36 his rookie year in 12 games, 55 in 15 games his sophomore year, and then last year in 13 games he was sacked 44 times.
And I don't watch a lot of Justin Fields. I've seen him play, 2 or 3 times a year for his career. But one of the things that Chris Canty mentioned this morning on the show was that he runs into a lot of those sacks.
He holds onto the ball a lot.
Yeah.
And gets caught in those sacks. I'll just say, like, when you compare, 55 sack seasons, there's not a lot of quarterbacks who have had those, but the Bears offensive line wasn't that terrible.
No.
I think he's making it harder for himself. And again, I know that he's a running quarterback, and you have to look at the running numbers he has. I mean, his second year in the league, he finished top 10 in MVP voting somehow because of what he was able to do on the run. But the bottom line is, can you win a Super Bowl with a quarterback whose best attribute is running the ball?
And let's go back to the beginning of this. You have to be savvy, right? You want a manager, you want a leader as your quarterback. If you can't figure out that in Chicago you don't take LeBron over MJ, then you probably don't have a lot of the inherent emotional skill to lead a team. I mean, can you imagine in 2007 or 2008 if Mark Bulger would have said, yeah, I'll take Miguel Cabrera over Albert any day? I mean, come on.
And just know that it's going to actually, maybe that's what he knows, is that he's gone. And so he's like, all right, well, I'm just going to lay it all out there and just really get this fan base to not like me anymore. I sent you guys this in our group chat from Get Up ESPN where they compared Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields' numbers through their last 20 games. And there are some similarities until you get to the interceptions. Then there's a clear difference there.
Yeah, and the wins.
Yeah, and the wins, of course, too. But the interceptions, that's a big difference.
Killer, right? That's why the Bears don't win, and the Ravens do. But Lamar, see, I always think that Lamar is going to do something spectacular at the end of a game to win it. Mm-hmm. And granted, he doesn't always do it, but they do seem to win every year when he's playing. So I'm a Lamar fan. I just think a lot of him, and not that I don't think a lot of Justin Fields, the person, but I just haven't seen it as a quarterback yet.
By the way, back to the original question you asked, who's the last quarterback you didn't know what it was after 3 seasons? Mm-hmm. Somebody texted in Jim Plunkett. And when you look at Plunkett's entire career, it's just, I mean, he spiked a couple times, but like statistically, he was always a guy who was going to throw about as many touchdowns as he threw interceptions. And that's what he was out of the gate. And that's what he was in his last couple of years as well.
Yeah, and that was just such a different era. Because all Al Davis wanted you to do, people didn't care about interceptions in those days. He just wanted you to drop back and throw it. Terry Bradshaw had more interceptions than touchdowns in his career. And Joe Namath, I believe, had more interceptions than touchdowns, too. So just a different era altogether.
One other opinion on this discussion, because we're going to be talking about this a lot, but 636 says, Caleb Williams couldn't even get USC into the CFP.
Well, neither could his defense.
And they were getting walked on for 50 points like it was routine.
Yeah.
That was a bad USC defense.
Yeah, I would not blame Caleb Williams for I don't think he played defense in addition to quarterback. I don't think he was a two-way guy.
He's special, but not that special.
I don't know. I'm very intrigued. And now you kind of have people continuing to gang up on Caleb Williams because he won't be participating in the combine, at least the throwing, but he will be there for the interviews, all the other important stuff. He's just going to do his pro day. But so is Jaden Daniels. Does that change?
Yeah.
Do those things change your opinion of a person? Because I find it interesting when it does for people.
No, because the teams that are capable of taking those guys will have plenty of access to those guys. They'll have them in their own building. They'll have them up on the whiteboard. They'll have a chance to get to know them. That doesn't bother me at all. The combine is really degrading. It's a meat market. And I don't... If I were an agent, I wouldn't want my player to go and participate. And if I were a player, once you get through it and you hear about what they do to the players, I wouldn't want to do it either. I think it's just dehumanizing.
Yeah. It does seem like it's more for entertainment purposes.
It is. And the teams are, I mean, really, honestly, do we really care if Caleb Williams, how many times he can press 225 pounds? No, I don't think so.
I kind of care. I do tune into that stuff. I'm like talking about it, but at the same time, I'll watch it. I watch it.
Yeah. I'm going to watch the tape of how the guy played in the fourth quarter.
Fine. I guess that makes more sense. It might mean more. I don't know.
It's something. And one time, Richie Incognito tore his knee up. That's why he fell in the draft. That and, well, he beat people up a lot. So, great job today by our producer, audio, video engineer, the one, the only Matthew Rocchio.
Pleasure.
Brooke, did you have fun today?
Yes.
Danny Mac will rejoin us tomorrow. He'll be with us Tuesday through Friday here on 101 ESPN. We thank you for tuning in, texting in, and being a part of the show for all of us until tomorrow morning at 7. Have a great Monday, St. Louis.
That's right.
You know how sometimes you do things or people do things just because this is the way we've always done it? I want you to know about Auto Loan Pro, because one of the things that I've always done when I've gone in to buy a car is just go into the finance manager's office and kind of take the loan. He'll say, okay, I got this offer and this offer, and you just kind of take it at the car dealership. At Auto Loan Pro, you go to autoloanpro.com, and they're going to be working with 50 different lenders to make sure that you get the best deal on your auto loan. Best payment, best interest rates. It really is something that I never really thought about, but I should have, and now I have access to autoloanpro.com. Go to that website, download their Auto Loan Pro playbook, and learn about how you can get the best deal on a vehicle. And if you're in the market for a vehicle and maybe you've had some problems with your credit rating in the past, they'll tell you this. If you can make a payment, they can get you a loan. It's that simple. They also have